Okay, there we go. Hello, friends and bees and friends who are also bees, and welcome to this week's Indie Thursday stream. This week we're going to be continuing our playthrough of Higurashi When They Cry, Miotsukushi Omote. When we left off last week, we had worked to convince Shion to help us stop Satoko's life being fucked up. And then we discovered that it didn't matter because Rena was gonna try and fuck up Rena's life as well. So that's where we're at, fixing people's problems as per usual. I'm just gonna double check that stream is working and Streamlabs is alive. Only two things, could possibly one. So without any further ado, let's hop over to the gameplay, give it its moment to catch up. There we go. I'm going to turn the audio up just a bit. We are going to hit continue and load in at the end of chapter 9. My phone is saying, "Did you know that you're live?" I did actually. She wasn't a bad girl. She very seriously and bravely fought against her fate, because she wanted to protect what she held dear, because she didn't want to lose it. That was her amazing strength, her dignified kindness, and her love. But she realised, she thought too hard about wanting to love someone. She forgot how to be loved and ended up alone. Even though Rika did her best, she couldn't do it. Rena's words from back then suddenly came back to me. It was a shock like being splashed with cold water. In that moment, I couldn't say anything back, like I was completely frozen. Her words denounced my failure to make an effort last year, and now I could only look back on the scars of those past memories. The regret, disappointment, and guilt couldn't be put into words. Even now, they blame me, and I feel deep pain every time I see Satoko remembering Satoshi. At that time, the power to break my destiny. No. If only I had the thoughts and the will to do it. Then the tragedy Rena caused would never have begun at all. Is that true? Rena experienced that tragedy in a previous world. A sorrowful world that drove her to protect her home. Her father was being deceived in a marriage scam designed to rob him, so Rena murdered Rina Mimiya and her accomplice Teppei Hojo with her own hands. But the story didn't end there. Her guilt and regret fostered paranoia, making her distrust her friends, eventually leading to tragedy. That's certainly not an unthinkable story. If those people were messing with my family, I'd probably be thinking the same thing. And keeping a sin like that hidden without ever atoning for it would probably drive you mad. So you believe me? Well, I don't think it's destiny, but there's a possibility she'll do it. Rika, the future you predicted could very well become reality. So isn't that only natural? When we talked on the way back from the coffee shop, Keiichi believed in me yet again. He's amazingly straightforward, and he's a good person, but that kind of receptiveness was like a piece of cotton, gently soaking in the water around it. More than anything, I was deeply thankful. Then we'll have to warn Rena of that. Oh, Rika? What is it? There's no way we can overlook problems like this. You're not thinking that again, are you? I'm not that malicious a person. I puffed up my cheeks and glared at Keiichi. I realised it was just a joke, but I was still a little upset. I wanted to resolve the consistent problems like Shion as soon as possible. For the time being, I think it's best to share all the facts. However, I suddenly spoke up about what was nagging at my heart. If Rena considers her family truly precious to her, do you think she's going to calmly listen to what we have to say? What do you mean by that? Honestly, I think Rena hates Rena. But when I saw her at Angel Mart earlier, she was trying to keep that fact hidden to spare her father's feelings. If that sort of Rena found out that Rena was only deceiving her father, how do you think she'd react? I grew more and more anxious while making my own predictions. Rena is normally bright, cheerful, and friendly, but when she gets angry, her emotions erupt like a raging inferno, and she loses all self-control. And her ability to take action is on the same level as Keiichi, but to be completely blunt, she has a tendency to run wild. Rena certainly has been blaming herself, thinking her own problems caused her parents' divorce. Her home was broken because she didn't put in enough effort to protect it. Right, I believe she said that in a previous world. So if Rena learns that her father is being swindled by a terrible woman, she'll probably use any available means to swipe it away and protect him. In other words, we ourselves could be pushing Rena to cause a tragedy. There's a saying about adding fuel to a fire. Rena's hostility could turn to murderous intent if we tell her about this, don't you think? Then, isn't that why we need to properly talk this over? I believe Rena will understand that killing her enemy won't solve her problems, and that it'll only make it even more unhappy. Keiichi, you're far too optimistic. Or maybe you're too pessimistic, Rika. Without even knowing my concerns. How naive. Plus, sensing my misgivings, Keiichi suddenly stopped smiling at me and spoke up. Rena can be surprisingly stubborn when you think about her. There are times she gets completely obsessed with something. Obsessed with something? Right. Whenever Rena is treasure hunting, making lunches, or going into cute mode, her true character comes out. But sometimes she goes too far, taking it as gospel that any deviation from the ideal is forbidden, and that makes her unfriendly to others. Sorry, got distracted. It's actually a selfish obsession. Even though it'd be fine not to be so blindly obsessed, like she's dealing with an idol. Is that so? So Keiichi realised even that? I hadn't noticed at all. Like an idol, huh? When you put it like that, I can agree. We all hide our nasty sides, but aside from that, there's no inferiority complex, because that's perfectly natural. But for some reason, Rena was always so dependable, trying her hardest to be a good girl, and that led to the past tragedy, running off without talking to anyone. Wrong button, 24/7. So, I've noticed that when Rena isn't feeling well, that's when she behaves in the most over-the-top manner, especially recently. You remember all those meatballs she made for lunch? I'm not sure, but I get the feeling she's trying to bury her loneliness by connecting with others, so I feel like something must have happened at home. This is the trade-off for all of the other bad shit that's happening in this loop, is that Keiichi finally developed some emotional awareness. Something painful. Back in the day, when I lived in Tokyo, I knew someone like that. He'd come over without any prior notice to show off some comics or toys, and we'd have lots of fun hanging out together, but somehow he seemed desperate. Whenever I'd asked about it a couple of days later, it was always in response to a fight or some sort of trouble with his parents. When you're feeling insecure, it makes you want to confirm your own sense of existence. So that's how it is? Satoko must have felt the same way, don't you think? She had to, otherwise I don't think she would have suddenly asked to stay over at her house. Honestly, we've all been aware of it. I hung my head, feeling embarrassed. No memory of the sleepover, but whatever. It's inexcusable, but I had no idea. I just thought Satoko's sleepover was a spur-of-the-moment thing. Everyone is putting a lot of thought into these things, genuinely thinking about their friends and doing their best to be strong for them. I've had thousands of encounters with them up until now, but have I ever really tried to think about or understand my friends to this extent? That's amazing. Keiichi and Satoko too. I need to learn from your example. Well, I haven't done as much as I made it sound like, but if the time comes, I'll do everything in my power to help. That's what friends are for, right? Keiichi smiled at me as he said that. Regrettably, the Keiichi of this world was far more mature than I. Don't worry, it's the only one. So what's the best way to communicate this to Rena? Let's see. We could extend a hand to her and wait until she has the confidence to discuss it with us. Keiichi looked troubled, so I gently made a suggestion. In fact, even in the previous worlds, problems were solved just by Rena having a talk with Mion. As long as Rena still deeply trusts her friends, our current concerns are nothing but needless anxiety. But there's still a possibility that it will have the opposite effect. Well, that's certainly an option. I want to check something super quickly, bear with me. Just a hot second. Okie doke. So we're going for... Is that right? How many chapters did I do last time? Big brain empty, no thoughts energy. Anyway, we'll see. We'll go for as many chapters as I feel like going for, I guess. That's certainly an option. I can extend a hand too. Rena is our friend, and since we're friends, I think we can trust her. However, Keiichi shook his head in disagreement. When it comes to discussions, seeking them out is far more emotionally taxing than having someone come to you. That's why Rena holds things in, arbitrarily makes her own judgments, and runs off on her own. There's even a chance it'll reach a point where there's no going back, right? When Keiichi pointed that out, I was suddenly taken aback. That was just like last year with Satoshi. Back then, we were all thinking of waiting until Satoshi came to talk with us, which means we effectively did nothing. And what was the result? Satoshi ran off on his own, which was suspected of killing his aunt, and ultimately he disappeared. In many ways, it was the worst case scenario. I don't like saying if or maybe, but even if it would have been meddlesome, if we had just tried talking to Satoshi about concerns, maybe he wouldn't have disappeared. No, that's not all. Even in the previous worlds, it was the same with Rena. Back then, Rena told us. Truly unhappy people become desperate. Oops. Who on earth was it that drove Rena that far? Keiichi? Mion? Satoko? Or was it me? Sure, I noticed that Rena wasn't feeling well, but I didn't know that it was motivated by family problems. By the time I realized that, it was already over and there was no turning back. Humans are not that strong. So even if you want someone to help you, even if you manage to find a patient and kind-hearted person willing to do it, it takes a lot of mental preparation and courage to take that first step. So unless you actively create that opportunity, you're just closing your heart and pretending to care about the other person, right? In which case it really is my fault. Wasn't I the one who didn't even want to talk things over with Keiichi, thinking it would be unpleasant and meddlesome? I still haven't put in enough effort. Pardon me. As I muttered that, I drooped my head. After being reincarnated thousands of times, the same conversations continued happening over and over, like a broken record. Maybe about to sneeze. Nah, just yawn. As a result, I stopped contributing to the moment I could foresee how things would develop. I'd say this is how it is and resign myself. I probably missed a few opportunities in there. Rika. Keiichi plopped a hand on my head and gently stroked my hair. I could feel the soft, comfortable touch through my hair. My cheeks started turning red, just a little bit. Keiichi, as long as the possibility is out there, let's give it everything we've got. The results will come later. And even if we do fail, then we'll just have to think of another way. Keiichi smiled as he said that. When I saw that, I finally began to smile too. Honestly, you really are such an incredibly kind-hearted person. After school the next day, we used to decide to see Rena's collections as a pretense to hang out at her house later today. Well, that's fine, I suppose. But why are you asking so suddenly? Rena quizzically tilted her head to the side after hearing my sudden request, but Satoko abruptly interrupted our conversation. Oh, I'm certain Rika's become envious after hearing me speak of it. Come to think of it, Satoko did stay at Rena's house last Sunday. It was upgraded even further from what I witnessed before, especially that traffic light. However did you manage to obtain one of those? I recently found a place in the mountains of garbage chock full of cute stuff. I'm going hunting again this weekend, Satoko. Would you like to come with? Is that really alright? Then I'll find a rare treasure superior to anything Rena's found. Oh, no way. All the cute stuff is for Rena to take home. The two of them were getting along well. Thanks to that, it was even easier than expected to get Rena to agree to a visit. Nice work, Satoko. That place is haunted, so it's best not to spend too much time there. Bah! Don't say something so ominous. But it's been such a long time, so I want to see Rena's collection too. Do you mind if I come along, Keiichi? You have to go to a Higurashi meeting after this, so you won't be able to come along. How do you know about that, Rika? Did you hear it from Oyasho-sama? It's transmitted over the airwaves, Bah! In reality, I confirmed the schedule with Kichira. I originally suggested that Mion come along for today's visit to the Ryu household, but Keiichi sternly rejected the idea. Maybe because she can't get a good read on the situation. Well, you can come along next time, Mion. I put all my heart into digging out Randy, so I want to see if he's doing well. Oh, he's doing just fine, just fine. Even now. I'd rather that not be the first thing I see when I wake up. So, Rika, let's meet at Rena's house after we head home. Let's go. Let's go, Nipa. In that case, I'll have tea and sweets waiting for you, okay? We were all getting excited. Mion, on the other hand, was pouting and feeling left out. Keiichi, you're spending all your time with Rika these days. That makes things dull for this old man. Oh, unfaithfulness is the hallmark of a man. I will never forgive you if you don't take this seriously, alright? It's alright, Mion, because Keiichi will come back to you in the end. Isn't that right, Keiichi? Rena gets out nice slowly. Wait, hold on. First of all, why do you get up talking as if cheating is the default? I've told you so many times, Mion and I aren't like that. More importantly, Rena, Satoka, your eyes look seriously terrifying. Come on, Mion. Don't turn all red. At least try and deny it a little bit. So I'm Keiichi's mistress, huh? How amusing. Compared to mature women, young feet are the best, Nipa. Do you love Rika in the background there? Who are you calling a mature woman? Some old lady? In that case, you'll have to stop calling yourself this old man. Great, now you're here too, Shion. Of course, I'm here again today for Satoko's training. Here's my latest creation, bacon wrapped asparagus. That sounds delish. Ooh, imagine that, but like charred, like lightly fried. I mean, fried asparagus is delicious. Not deep fried, but like pan fried. That with some bacon, you get a nice sear on the bacon. I like my bacon very crispy. I told you before, I can't stand asparagus. The club members were especially fun and lively today, and so I want to protect that. I don't want to lose it. As I thought that, I prayed that my feelings would be able to get through to Rena, praying to a god that was no longer at my side. Scratching my arm, very itchy. Tension coursed through my entire body when we arrived in front of Rena's house. Every single step we took was moving us closer to controlling fate. I closed my eyes like I was in prayer. Rena, no matter what, we're your friends. I'm certain we'll avoid this tragedy. Alright. I opened my eyes once again and nodded to Keiichi beside me. Keiichi remained silent and looked back at me with a serious expression, completely unlike the relaxed atmosphere he displayed in the classroom. Without a doubt, I absolutely want to prevent Rena's tragedy. Without a doubt, I want to check something super quickly. I'm going to make a... that. So... Chapter 6 was... So I did 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So I could do like 4.5 to 4 to 5 chapters today, depending on where a good cliffhanger is, I guess. I braced myself, then rang the bell at the door of Rena's house. I could hear the doorbell ringing, even from outside the house. At the same time, I could hear the pitter-patter of footsteps approaching from within. The door opened, and Rena greeted us with a big smile. Keiichi, Rika, welcome. Rena was dressed in an apron, suggesting that she was doing housework in the kitchen. Judging by that, I could tell she was trying to get things ready for our arrival. Okay, let's head in. Sorry for disturbing you. It's fine, come in, come in. Rena set out some slips for us, then ushered us inside. Everything around felt bright, carefree and warm. I started feeling a little guilty. It was depressing thinking about the conversation we were about to have with Rena. There's no way she's going to enjoy the topic we're planning to discuss here. No, the subject will only make her grieve. I put on the floral patterned slip as Rena recommended, while tightly holding the hem of my skirt. If that's the truth, I'd rather not say anything at all. Still, there's no way we can leave here without talking about it. This is for everyone's sake, and of course that includes Rena. I repeated that to myself over and over. Rena escorted us to her room and offered us cookies and juice. The cookies were star-shaped and had a charming homemade feel to them. A while back, my Ended Spring Quarter, my flatmate, made a vegan chocolate chip, or like dairy-free, I can't remember, either way, chocolate chip cookies, and then also vegan/dairy-free, whatever, sugar cookies. The sugar cookies were kind of crumbly, but they were very delicious. Chocolate chip cookies were absolutely delicious, incredibly Moorish. Care for a cookie? I munched on a cookie. Rena stared straight at me as I did, like she was waiting for my verdict. Nipa, it's really tasty. I sincerely smiled and answered as such. Then Rena ecstatically raised her hands in the air. Yay! I put all my might into the Rena special. I hope you're hungry. Wait here a sec. Rena sat a plate of cookies down in front of us, then rushed out of the room in a flash. I sensed a faint, sweet aroma coming in from the other side of the door. These are pretty tasty, but... Kichi quietly muttered that. He must be feeling a little anxious, too. No way. Maybe... The door opened again, as expected, and then a towering mountain of cookies came through the doorway. No, Rena was standing there with a tray full of cookies. Sorry to keep you waiting. Actually, I'm still baking a bunch more, so go ahead and eat a lot. This one's chocolate, this one's mint, and this one has almonds. And this one is a Mr. Crab cookie. Look at the smooth crab shape, isn't it cute? And this one is a Mr. Squid cookie. His legs are all wriggly. Rena was thrilled to tell us about her special cookies. Seeing Rena like that, there was no way I could tell her about her father. Considering the peaceful atmosphere, what's the best way to handle it? I'm sorry, Rena. For a while, I nibbled at a cookie and looked down while searching for a good opportunity. The truth is, we have something we want to discuss with you. Keiichi cut through the calm, peaceful atmosphere. Rena immediately looked puzzled by his firm tone. Huh? What could it be? What could it be? I'm opening up the guide. It's about your father. My dad? Rena's face suddenly clouded over. Naturally, anyone would be anxious after suddenly being told they need to hear something about their father. But this is for everyone's sake, including Rena, to make everyone happy. Deep in my heart, I was thankful that Keiichi took the initiative in talking to Rena. Actually, we heard a story from Shion about your father. From Shion? What is it? What is it? Rena's eyes were anxiously shaking. She could probably tell from the look on our faces that it wasn't a very pleasant story. So right then, I addressed Rena. Okay, remembering to save at the choices this time. Do you know a woman named Rena Rena? Yeah, I know her. What about her? That woman works at a club, right? In other words, that doesn't mean anything. Rena interrupted in a harsh tone. She had a slightly angry look in her eyes, staring into Keiichi. Where she works doesn't matter. My dad likes her regardless of her occupation, and I think that's okay. Or are you going to say otherwise? No, I wouldn't. Assuming she was a good person. What's that supposed to mean? The look in Rena's eyes was starting to appear more and more perilous. That's strange. It's certainly not a fun thing to hear, but Rena's reaction was oddly combative, so I jumped in without thinking. Well, now I've saved over the wrong one. Oh well. It's fine. Rena, what do you think of her? Why do you ask? What do you mean by that, Rika? I mean exactly what I said. Rena, please answer me honestly. Rena kept quiet and grabbed herself a cookie. Then, after she finished eating it, she muttered a reply. I don't like her very much. But... Rena's house doesn't have a mum. I'd heard this story sometime in the past, but I gazed up at Keiichi, wondering how things had played out in this world. He seemed to like to catch his breath. I guess he didn't know. Back when we lived in another town, she found another man she liked, and then they got divorced. It was so selfish. Dad was always supporting her while she kept working at the job she loved. So that's how it was? Of course I know that he's going to those all-female bars, but I think Dad is feeling lonely, because he was suddenly left all alone. Rena smiled and continued defending her father. If he's lonely, then what else can he do? So Rena thinks it's not bad for him to go to places like that, right? In fact, Dad has been in higher spirits after getting to know Rena. Right, there's nothing bad about that, but what? Rena glared at Keiichi with hostility in her eyes as he tried to think of what to say. Yes, this is strange. It's like she's refusing to accept what Keiichi's trying to tell her. This reaction is totally unexpected. Dad told me he's getting married. It seems he already gave her the wedding ring, and Rena came to greet me, smiling while saying, "I'll do my best to get along with you." Seriously? Why would I lie about that? Rena and Dad are both doing so much to care for me, so Rena needs to put in a little more effort for their sake. Is that so strange? Is that wrong? No, it's not. Then Keiichi, why did you bother coming all this way out to Rena's house to say something like that? Even though everyone is doing their best to be patient, you came to tear that apart? And you were too anxious to do it alone, so you brought Rika with you? Rena scornfully glared at Keiichi. That's wrong. Rena has misunderstood something for a while now. With that thought guiding me, I rushed to speak up. Save. Okay, we're locked into the good ending now. I'd love to see it. I'm the one who told Keiichi. Rika? Why? I heard something from Shion that made me start to worry. About that Rena Mamiya lady. Rena's eyes were lightly shaking, but she seemed to be rethinking her hostility, and this time it was directed at me. Why, Rena? Why do you have that look in your eyes? I tried to speak up, but Keiichi held up a hand to stop me. Rena, how well do you know this Rena lady? Didn't I just tell you that doesn't matter? So I have nothing more to say. Then let me just talk to myself out loud. Is that okay? No matter what you say, I won't listen. But if you wish to speak, do as you please. Rena unpleasantly turned to look away as she said that. Even so, Keiichi remained calm and slowly began speaking as though she was still listening. We heard it from Shion. Rena, your father has been a regular customer at the bar where Rena Mamiya works. He goes there almost every day. That place is extremely expensive, even for something in the downtown area. Seems like it takes a considerable amount of cash just to get in. And I hear that's why regular customers are easy to recognize. Stop talking like that. I thought you weren't listening, so I'm just talking to myself out loud. Rena reached for a cup and took a sip of warm tea, and then she silently stared at the bottom of the cup while holding it in both hands. I'll get to the point. Rena Mamiya is a con artist. She gets together with men and uses them for marriage fraud schemes. Huh? They say Rena recently found another easy mark in Hinamizawa, and that the man's last name was Ryugu. Do you have any evidence of that? We heard that from Shion too. Rena searches for good partners who show off having a lot of money, and this particular bar is famous for that sort of thing. He is an adult, so gifts can be expensive. Isn't my dad free to do as he wishes? Then I'll ask you honestly, is it normal thinking for someone thinking about marriage to spend their money on something like that? Rena, if you and I were in a relationship, unacceptable. Rena has the right to choose too. I'd never want to be the nosy sort of bride that badmouths other people. Rena had a nasty look on her face like she was about to puke. Keiichi let out a sigh after seeing that reaction and then rephrased his question. Then let's say it's Mion, or Satoko or Rika. If we were serious about getting married, I wouldn't let my partner keep working at a place like that. It's good to think about your partner's feelings and money too, but I'd be worried about her cheating with someone else. A normal workplace is full of men and women. If we follow that logic, it's impossible to get married and keep working. But this isn't an ordinary workplace, right? It's a pleasure shop where you go to enjoy the feeling of love, by paying for it. Didn't I already tell you? It's because Dad is lonely. I'll say it again, Rena. Your father is being deceived. Rena Mamiya is. Liar! Rena violently slammed her cup into the table. The force of the impact was strong enough to make the mountain of cookies spill over. I've been listening quietly as you selfishly went on. Keiichi, do you really think Reina's dad is some dumb bunny? He wouldn't propose to someone without knowing whether they're some kind of scammer. What are you talking about? She's deceiving him. Isn't that what makes it a marriage scam? And what's worse, she's connected to Teppei Hojo. Plus, the person acting strange here is you, Rena. Shion went to the trouble of sharing this information with us, but you're doubting it and not even listening to us? Strange? You're the one acting strange, Keiichi. Why are you saying all this when you have no connection to Reina's family? Did Shion ask you to? Well, no connection. Rena, you're our friend. I can't just look the other way when a friend is worried and suffering. Friends? Don't make me laugh. If you stick a knife in someone's scars without even considering their feelings, how can you call yourself a friend? And who's worried? Who's suffering? Keiichi, it's admirable that you became a class rep, but do you think that makes you able to read a situation based on the atmosphere and people's expressions? Well, too bad. Rena isn't worried or suffering at all, because I'm going to grab hold of my happiness and move forward. Liar. It's not a lie. Right. No matter how stubborn Rena can be, this is still art. Rather than defending her father, Rena is more focused on refuting what Keiichi has to say, like she doesn't want to admit it. What's more, this information came directly from Shion. That alone should be enough to prove we're acting with good intentions. And yet she's dismissing information from her friends as lies. Isn't it just like Rena experienced that tragedy? Rena, do you not believe what Shion told us? I don't know what Shion means when she says Rena's a bad person. But Rena won't be led astray just because something said something weird. I gave this marriage my blessing. I've chosen to believe in it. This is already decided. Is it really already decided? Yes, it is. Because Ayashiro-sama told me so. Then Rena shouted that in a harsh tone. Ayashiro-sama, you say? It was an unfamiliar word. Wait, I remember now. That's the name of the guardian god of Hinamizawa, worshipped at the Watanagashi festival. But why did you bring up Ayashiro-sama? Rika? I immediately turned towards Rika with an inquisitive expression, but she seemed just as surprised. She had a dubious expression and her eyes were open wide. At first, Rena wasn't thrilled about the marriage, but one night about a week ago, I heard the tap, tap, pat, pat of footsteps by my bedside. Rena's hands were lightly trembling as she held them against her chest. She looked terrified, so there was no way this was a joke. Sensing how strange this was, I changed my attitude and turned towards Rena. Why would Ayashiro-sama be at your house? Keiichi, you don't know, but Ayashiro-sama has been watching us all this time, cursing and punishing the people who abandon Hinamizawa or don't show proper respect for Ayashiro-sama. And so, since Rena's family didn't show Ayashiro-sama enough respect, we had to be punished. Rena's shoulders slumped as she incoherently muttered to herself. Her words were outlandish and bizarre. I couldn't imagine a sane person saying something like that, but I kept quiet and continued listening. It's Rena's fault that Mum and Dad got divorced. Back when we moved away from Hinamizawa, I was opposed. But they told me it was for Mum's sake, so that made Dad feel unhappy. Honestly, if I tried harder to think about Dad's feelings instead of fighting to oppose the move, things wouldn't have ended like this. Is this related to the remarriage story? Extremely. Dad was finally able to move on from his old wounds and find new happiness. But Rena still wasn't happy at first. I couldn't support it. Back then, being around Rena felt unpleasant. Just looking at her made her feel uncomfortable. It was like she was trying to take over my house. And when I was thinking that, that's when it happened. That's when Oyashiro-sama came to Rena. Rena. The way Rena trembled as she spoke made it clear how frightened she was. Rika rushed over to her and hugged her with her small body. Oyashiro-sama is not that sort of god. Even if he left Hinamizawa, a god like that wouldn't curse someone who did nothing wrong. Even now it still haunts my dreams. Tears came spilling from Rena's eyes as she shouted that. And she was trembling with both arms clinging to her chest, acting like she couldn't even see me as she continued her story. Oyashiro-sama told me to abandon my hostility and sincerely wish for Dad's happiness. So Rena gave her blessing to Rena's marriage because it's better than being cursed again. And it's better than taking that weird coloured medicine. And if Rena's selfish desires ever trample on Dad's happiness, Oyashiro-sama will come for me again. If Rena's a bad girl who deserves to be punished, those tap-tap-tap footsteps will come chasing, constantly saying, I'm sorry, while those tap-tap-pat-pat sounds follow me. Calm down, Rena. There's nobody like that here. You haven't done anything wrong, so you're not going to be cursed. Quick. If I don't abandon it quickly, the power of Yashiro-sama will take me away and take over my body again. Yashiro-sama will come again, whispering to me to hurry, following me around everywhere I go, urging me to rush, following me forever, constantly saying that over and over. That's the truth, isn't it? But if that's the truth, then why can't everyone see it? Why don't they believe what I tell them? Everyone's lying to me. Everyone should be able to say it. No more injections. Stop. Rena. Rena's haggard breathing finally began to calm down as Rika and I clung to her. Have you calmed down, Rena? Rena, are you all right? Rena faintly, almost imperceptibly, nodded to us. Her whole body was still trembling and covered in sweat. Even so, her look of confusion up until now was completely gone, so Rika and I looked at one another and sighed in relief. Sorry, I lost control. No, you're fine. Just the way you are. Rika anxiously looked at her, but she still didn't relax and tight grip on Rena. The sincerity in Rika's expression may have gotten through to her, though, because Rena's face gradually began turning red. You may not believe it, but Rena really did meet Oyashiro-sama. So when it came back, I was scared and anxious. I couldn't understand, but I wanted to run away. So I understand. Uh-huh. Rena suddenly looked up at me in response to that verbal affirmation. I thought that maybe I'd spoken far too plainly. However, I can say for certain those weren't just fleeting words. They came from the heart. Fear and anxiety, so painful that it makes you want to run away. Even I can understand how hard it is to have the courage to take a step forward. Rena, it's absolutely unthinkable for you to be telling a lie, and I doubt a mere dream is enough to make you this scared. So I believe what you just told us. If Oyashiro-sama really is like that, then it can't be helped. Sorry for saying such terrible things and harassing you. Really, I'm so sorry. That's enough talking about this subject. Keiichi. Rena and Rika both gazed at me with mixed feelings. Shion's information is probably true, but the truth and logic behind it wouldn't necessarily make you happy. And as far as Rena's concerned, Oyashiro-sama's existence is an indisputable fact. In a sense, these are the basic elements that constitute Rena's sense of values and idea of justice. If that's the case, rather than denying it and forcing our own values upon her, isn't it our responsibility as her friends to help find a way to support her well-being while still abiding that fact as potentially true? I've certainly thought so. Just then I heard loud engine sounds coming from outside the house. The sound grew louder as it moved to the front of Rena's house and then ceased, indicating that the car had come to a stop. Huh? Who could it be? Sorry, please wait a minute. Rena wiped the tears from her puffy red eyes and stood up and left the room. Rika and I silently watched her go. Excuse me, where should I put these packages? The firm voice of a delivery man echoed all the way up to the second floor. Rika and I looked at one another as we heard it. Keiichi, I understand, but going any further than this is really pushing it. Rika sighed and slumped her shoulders. Honestly, even I didn't expect us to be so outright rejected, so I was unable to hide my disappointment. But even if Oyashiro-sama is real, I think doing something like that is uncalled for. Oyashiro-sama isn't that kind of god. Certainly not one that would wish misfortune upon people. Right, but the Rena panicked wasn't normal. Wouldn't it? I looked up at the ceiling as I muttered that to myself, and suddenly a scene emerged in my mind. When I feared the being known as Oyashiro-sama, I didn't know what was right and didn't trust anything, at that time. And when I was in despair, tormented by that sinful mistake, the person who was kind enough to extend a precious hand to me was, no doubt about it. I get it. Keiichi? Oh, sorry. At any rate, it'll be difficult to say anything more to Rena the way she is now. So let's think of another way, one that won't make her uneasy. Another way? Like what? Let's keep thinking about it. Ow! Rika, what was that? Irresponsible boy. Suddenly a sigh escaped me. I'm a fool for expecting too much of him. Does this boy still not understand how serious the situation is? Isn't that only natural? Keiichi doesn't know much about faith in Ayashiro-sama, and even less about what personal history made Rena so terrified of Ayashiro-sama. Just the fact that he's believed as much as I told him could perhaps be called a miracle. Anyway, I'm concerned about the story about Ayashiro-sama. Indeed, amongst all of us, Rena is the one most conscious of Ayashiro-sama's existence. This is an absolute secret from Keiichi, but she's actually received medical counselling for it. What's more, I heard she had problems at the school she transferred to that forced her to transfer again. Leaving the village does significantly increase the risk of worsening Hinamizawa symptoms. The trigger for that is extreme stress. Extreme stress, doubts, anxiety, and sudden surges of hatred increase one's mental load. Rena was originally from this village, and facing problems stemming from the divorce while moving to a new location eventually drove her to the limit. And after that set in, she very briefly reached a stage close to level 5. It was an extremely dangerous situation. The drug she'd been taking before that was simply incapable of suppressing that level of progression. At one point, she was even given a high-risk prognosis. Nevertheless, Rena was fortunate that after she'd returned to Hinamizawa, she was selected to receive treatment with a new drug that Irie had just developed and to receive intensive care in Gogora. As a result, Rena was able to recover to such a degree that she was able to live her daily life as she does now. At the time, I discreetly snuck a glance at part of a report made for Tokyo and found the name Ayashiro-sama written there. It said that Rena interpreted all her abnormal circumstances through a concept she had when she was young called the curse of Ayashiro-sama, resulting from her lack of familial love. It's normal for a child of her age to settle on something or someone to push responsibility onto, but Rena didn't because she really did love her family, and because a high degree of independence caused her to focus her thoughts on blaming herself. That's how the report summarized it. In other words, the Ayashiro-sama Rena spoke of was actually her own subconscious, in which case there's a contradiction there. If the Ayashiro-sama that Rena so insisted on is actually a manifestation of her subconscious, why would it stop her from becoming hostile? In fact, it would be the opposite. It would drive her to eliminate Rena to protect her family, and it would only heighten her urge to kill. But this time, Ayashiro-sama is pushing her to value familial love in an inclusive way rather than exclusive, in which case it can't be derived from Rena or from her subconscious, because even Rena's subconscious mind doesn't want to accept Rena. Then who on earth is this Ayashiro-sama that Rena claims visited her again? Rika? Me? I was so surprised to hear a sudden voice that I jumped. When I looked up, Keiichi was anxiously looking down at me. What's wrong? You seem like you were lost in thought all of a sudden. Me, it's nothing. More importantly, what are we going to do now? That's enough for today. If we go any further, we'll probably push Rena's mood even further in the wrong direction. Unfortunately, that's the truth. I let out a sigh full of anxiety and regret as I nodded to him. We have no choice. Let's think it over and come back later. Anyway, Rena's taking a long time with the delivery guy. I wonder if something happened. I could hear loud noises coming from downstairs. It seemed like they were carrying some pretty big packages. Should we take a quick look? Keiichi said that, but the door swung open and Rena emerged the moment he started to stand up. That took a while. Rena? After gazing at Rena, Keiichi and I glanced at one another. Rena had looked completely haggard just a little while ago, but now she had an unbelievably shocked, gloomy expression, like she was on the verge of tears. What's wrong? Rena, what's wrong? Did something happen? Kind of. Furniture is... Furniture? What's this about furniture? Dad apparently ordered a whole lot of furniture, but he never told Rena anything about it. Rena's lips were shaking and her eyes were open wide. Sensing that she was in pain, Keiichi put his hands on her shoulders and tried to cheer her up. Isn't there a chance your father was just doing some remodeling in secret? Maybe he was planning to surprise you. But it's all completely different from my dad's style. Deep down, Rena had already made up her mind. Her manner of speaking made that clear. Dad would never choose such gaudy furniture. Rika. Keiichi and I looked at one another and then we followed Rena down the stairs. And then the supply of furniture was being hauled into the house from the delivery truck. They must not have been giving layout instructions because the furniture was just being set down in whatever space was available. Rena's house had previously been uniformly defined by warm-coloured furniture, but it was overrun by this new furniture in an instant. Pastel furniture and tropical rugs were laid out. They were all fashionable in style, the likes of which I'd only seen in TV dramas, but they seemed completely out of place in this house. Felt wrong, like a total stranger was moving in. All right then, please excuse us. After the voice from the entryway declared the work done, I heard the sound of the engine starting up and the truck gradually driving away. It was like a sudden storm had struck Rena's house. Rena dropped down to the floor in a daze. Oh, this furniture looks so expensive. Why? Rena. Rena immediately rose to her feet like she just thought of something and ran to the back room. Keiichi and I quickly chased after her. She'd be here. Rena's hands were trembling as she opened the door to her father's study. She pulled a heavy portable safe out from underneath a pile of documents and smoothly lined up the numbers like she knew the combination by heart. And when she opened the safe, she cried out. What is this? Underneath some bank books, personal seals, a few stamps and some unused postcards, there were many bundles of freshly minted 10,000 yen bills. It was a considerably thick bundle of bills, and some narrow paper wrappers seemed to be right beside them. If the wrappers were left behind, then the contents must have already been used up. The stamp on each wrapper indicated that each bundle contained 1,000,000 yen. I'm going to have to double check my yen to dollar conversion. It's about 100, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so stacks of $1,000. This is clearly far too much cash to be keeping in a personal safe at home. Everyone here seemed to be thinking that. The pile of cash was weird enough on its own, so of course Rena's hands were shaking as she opened one of the bank books stored within the portable safe. Rena stared at the bank book. I stretched my body to see what was written there, but I stopped myself. I could imagine what was there based on Rena's expression alone. Rena remained motionless for half a minute or so, simply gazing at the bank book. And then, what is this? She quietly muttered that to herself, and then both her arms fell limp as she slumped to the ground. Rena. I squatted down in front of her, opened a powerless hand, and squeezed it tight. In response to that, Rena silently offered me the bank book she held in her other hand. I looked inside. There were transactions of hundreds of thousands of yen, withdrawn many times over a very short time frame. No, that wasn't all. A long-time certificate of deposit that was clearly intended for future use was recently cashed out, and the money was moved to the savings account. Lies. Rena despondently muttered that, but her words lacked the strong denial they had earlier. Rena. Keiichi suddenly spread out a document in front of Rena like he'd found something and asked her about it. Are you moving? Huh? Rena was stunned by the document Keiichi held out in his hand. On that document, I saw the logo of an Okonomiya real estate company and room information for a rental apartment. I could hear the cries of the Higurashi coming from off in the distance. The sunset red sky was dotted with cawing crows. The three of us silently walked forward as our long shadows stretched down the road ahead. I heard the dry sound of bicycle wheels. The sound of our footsteps was too pathetic and too uneasy. We paid a visit to the real estate agency in Okonomiya listed on that document. The situation there was even worse than what we heard from Shion, and we found staggering new information. You mean Ritsuko Mamiya's property? Yes, we've already accepted a reservation. I was a bit surprised to learn that Rena Mamiya wasn't her real name. It completely defied common sense to hide your real name from someone you were planning to marry. However, Rena's complexion transformed to a deep blue, then a ghastly pale as we spoke with the agent. And Keiichi standing beside her had intense anger dyeing his face red. And my face probably looked just like Keiichi's. When I opened my palms, I could clearly see the marks from my nails digging into my clenched fists. Rena Mamiya, or to use her real name, Ritsuko Mamiya, was planning to live with another man in that apartment. The proof of that was that another person besides Rena's father was listed on the reservation form, a name I didn't recognise that was different from Teppei Hojo's. Maybe she was planning to cut ties with Teppei after robbing the money from Rena's father? Considering that she didn't include him in her plan to rob the Sonozaki's, it didn't sound that unrealistic. Still, this apartment costs more than all the money from cashing out that investment, doesn't it? Keiichi brought up a valid point when he muttered that. In other words, Rena was trying to make up the difference by stealing money from the Sonozaki's. Her greed was astounding and shameless. For what the problems it would cause to Toko, even I'd want to murder such a despicable woman. Lies. Rena. Lies. After that, we somehow managed to stop Rena's crying and then left the real estate office. And on the way back, we had the misfortune of the chain on Rena's bike breaking, so we ended up walking the whole way back, pushing our bikes. Rena. I lined myself up beside her while pushing my bike and looked straight at her. She had finally stopped sobbing, but her eyes were swollen red and her soft, flushed cheeks were soiled with dirt splashed when her bike dropped. I want you to cheer up. Why? After saying that, Rena stopped in her tracks. Keiichi and I stopped with our bikes about 3 steps afterwards and looked back at her. Rena did as Oyashiro-sama asked, right? Even though I hated Rena and opposed Dad's remarriage, Oyashiro-sama told me not to be hateful and not to run away. So I decided to endure it, right? And that way I'll be able to be happy. I believed that, right? Rena. Keiichi, I said a lot of mean things to you, didn't I? I couldn't believe it. Because if I did believe the things you said, then I'd start hating Rena again and I'd want to oppose their marriage. So I said a lot of hurtful things. I'm sorry. I'm sure you won't forgive me, but I'll keep saying it until you tell me to stop. And yet... Massive tears came pouring out of her eyes like rainfall, dribbling down her cheeks and into the ground below. Seeing that reminded me of what Keiichi said earlier. Rena can be surprisingly stubborn when you think about it. The time she gets completely obsessed with something. So that's it. She was terrified of Oyashiro-sama, but she didn't think anyone would believe her if she told them. That's why she snapped and went on the defensive. And now I understood. Rena was angry and struggling with her own dilemma, losing control of herself. But despite that, she felt enough guilt about it to directly apologize to me and Keiichi. So, I understand. Keiichi approached Rena and stroked her head to comfort her as she said that, in a perfectly natural gesture. Hey Rena, I think what Oyashiro-sama told you wasn't wrong, but maybe you just misunderstood it? Huh? Remember what you said earlier, Rena. Oyashiro-sama told you not to hate and not to run away, but I don't think that was necessarily telling you to support your father's marriage. Why do you say that? Telling you not to hate really means not to feel resentment. To be honest, I resent Rena just as much as you do, and I'd like to kill her. But I think wanting to erase her existence only makes that hatred stronger. Rena and I both cried out at once, and then we stared straight at Keiichi. I'm telling you not to run away. Maybe that's just saying not to avoid the problem. If your family truly is precious for you, fight for it. But not against Rena. The one battle you should be fighting is having a talk with your father. And if that's too difficult, then find someone you trust to discuss it with. I think that's what Oyashiro-sama was trying to tell you. Keiichi. I thought it was right to kill them. But the day I killed them, the world started to go crazy. Does that mean that it was wrong to kill them? I don't know if it was right or wrong, but it wasn't the best thing you could have done. What do you mean the best thing? Don't you know? I grabbed Rena's head and embraced her. Then I told her. I told her something so simple. It was so simple that anyone could think of it. But Rena didn't do it. I didn't do it either back then. If you're in danger or you feel like doubting others or something bad happens, it's so simple. You should talk to your friends. That's right. You're right. Rena cried in my arms for a while. She cried about the wrong choice she made at the very beginning. The choice couldn't have been hard to see. I'm sure it was something that was within her grasp. How stupid it was to worry about it by herself. She had friends. She had friends whom she trusted. Why did she think she couldn't talk to her friends about it? I wanted you to remember. To trust in the irreplaceable friends you've made. Nobody wants to feel like a nuisance for depending on others. You should realize that, because otherwise you'd end up feeling regret over it. Up until now, I always considered my misfortune the curse of Oyashiro-sama, and so I vowed to believe and obey what Oyashiro-sama told me. But the truth was actually something else entirely. I was just blaming everything on Oyashiro-sama so I could brush off my pain. And it snowballed past the point it could be helped, so I became full of regret and resentment that ultimately destroyed me. Right. That's right. Rena, you and your father need to have a proper discussion about this. You're good at keeping quiet, out of consideration for other people's feelings, but I love the Rena who can smile happily deep down from the bottom of her heart. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Keiichi, Rika. She nodded as she said that, then began sobbing again. But this time her tears were different. They were warm. You're here. Hey, Keiichi. We looked up at the voice calling out to us. Emerging from the shadows behind a distant hut, Mion was waving her arms and coming this way. Yo, thanks for all the help, former class rep. You can count on me, current class rep. Mion laughed as she gave me a very deliberate salute. And then she turned to Rena and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Cheer up, Rena. This look doesn't suit you. Mia, come on, Granny's waiting. By the way, I've got a mountain of treats waiting for you, okay? Uh-huh. Keiichi? I stopped at that payphone on the way back, right? And I made a reservation for one at a local luxury inn. I already told your dad too, so let's have fun until the morning comes. They exchanged glances and silently nodded to each other as they said that. A feast and overnight stay at Mion's house? So they had this planned out from the start? I was completely taken aback by his amazing forethought. Keiichi, just how far are you willing to go to impress me? Yeah. A smile finally emerged on Rena's face. Seeing that look of joy made it feel like all the stress of the day had washed away. Shit feels too positive. Got bad vibes deep in my soul. Okay. End of chapter 10. We followed the road back to the shrine. I was riding my bike beside Keiichi. By the time we parted ways with Rena, the dimly lit surroundings were completely overtaken by the darkness of the night. The surrounding area was so quiet I could hear the loud reverberations of the generators that lit the dark ground. I hope Rena starts feeling better. She'll be fine. I'm sure Mion will be able to take care of it. Be tough to handle on her own, but Mion's there with her, so they'll be able to talk things through. I'd expect nothing less from her fiancé. I told you, it's not like that. Anyway, Afrika, if you or I were the ones talking over with Rena, don't you think she'd be worried about losing face? But Mion is older than us, so I think she'll have an easier time talking it over. Well, the financial damage wasn't that severe, so the rest is up to Rena. Keiichi smiled as he said that, as if to blow away all my worries. Not that long ago, I thought he was overly optimistic, but that was wrong. This is how much faith Keiichi has in his friends. Doing everything in his power to respond to the trust others place in him, but also without forgetting to place his own trust in others, and never underestimating them. In doing so, he makes others want to reciprocate that trust. I glanced at Keiichi beside me. Ever since I came to this world, I've been consistently surprised by Keiichi's remarks and actions. To check something quickly, bear with. Okay. The ending's less confusing to get this time around, so... Even though my ability to read the future put me on the defensive, he encouraged me. He destroyed my pessimistic view of the future with nothing but the strength of his convictions and his ability to take action. It wasn't the Keiichi of this world that told me fate is as flimsy as a thin sheet of paper, but deep down I'm sure he's exactly the same as back then. However, that's why I'm getting anxious. This dark feeling is proof that I still haven't begun to fully trust Keiichi and my friends. But it's not easy to set aside the unease I felt about what happened before. I've got that anxious feeling too, so, don't worry about it. Rika? Meep? What's wrong? You've been staring vacantly. Is everything alright? I'm fine, Nipa. I put on a smile as I answered him. Come to think of it, feels like I've been smiling to hide my intentions a lot more often around Keiichi these days. Not just around him, with all of my friends. Is that so? Then I guess it's okay. Meep. And like always, a self-hatred became rushing back to me, because it feels like I'm forcing myself to play along. I already knew the underlying cause of that. It's because I've been feeling alienated from everyone. Even though I know the tragedy coming ahead, nobody else knows. And I really want to confess that, but I'm certain that everyone is completely oblivious to my suffering and hardship. Those depressing thoughts have been nagging at me, but for the time being, I've been smiling to keep the cynical side of myself hidden. I despise that version of myself. Sorry, I was getting up something to remind myself to do it after stream. We continued in silence for a while, but eventually the stone steps of the Furude shrine emerged from the darkness. I stopped my bike at the bottom of them and parked it on the usual place. My bike lock was there, but I didn't bother using it. Even if my bike was stolen, in a village this small, it would be found and returned soon enough. And of course the thief would receive a punishment fit for their crime. Alright, Rika, see you tomorrow. Keiichi turned around on his bike as he said that. Even if it was a simple gesture, I couldn't help but see it strangely at the moment. So I... Wait, Keiichi. What is it, Rika? Keiichi, let me ask you just one thing. I'd already made it 4 steps up the stairs and I was about to wave and say goodnight, but the words from deep within my heart suddenly came out. Keiichi, who are you? Huh? Keiichi froze and stared at me, looking bewildered. It was a completely unexpected question. I realised that. But even so, the thoughts came erupting out of me and wouldn't stop. The Keiichi I know was smart and very quick to take action. So he always thought things over, made judgments, and did things entirely on his own. However, left unchecked, he'd run wild and drive himself to ruin. At the very least, he wasn't the sort of person to put such strong faith in his friends and to act on their behalf without a moment of hesitation. Rika, it's true that I've seen you grow up little by little every time I rewound time. When Rena went mad, you felt concerned because you saw your own failure in her, and in the end you were able to stop her. And even when Tepe took her away, you stopped Shion and the others from resorting to murder. One time, you gathered everyone together to put pressure on the government office, and you even persuaded Oreo to help Stoko. So I probably do believe in your kindness and the strength of your heart, but I can't help but think there's something unusual about the version of you in this world. I already knew. I didn't understand why I was doing something so rude, but I knew very well that I was saying something unreasonable. Unlike me, Keiichi and the others didn't retain their memories, so it would only be confusing to tell him what he was like in a previous world. Even after everything Keiichi has endured, he can't be happy to hear me talking about him like a completely different person. And yet, despite how anxious I'm getting, how can he be so strong and stay so calm? So strange, and I can't understand it, but above all I envy him. So I just couldn't help but ask. Please, tell me, Keiichi, what made you so strong in this world? How are you able to trust your friends so unconditionally? The Keiichi I knew wasn't this strong. Sometimes he felt doubt and fear, and as a result, Keiichi remained still and listened to me closely. He wasn't smiling or getting upset. He was just listening with a docile expression. Seeing Keiichi like that made me feel at ease, but also frustrated. Even though I recognised I was developing an inferiority complex, my heart just couldn't understand it. Rika. Before long, as I stood stock still with my eyes dropped, Keiichi sat his bike down and walked up to me, then took something out of his back pocket and handed it over in slow motion. It was a talisman pouch. Inside was a round, hard, beard-like object. Keiichi? Keiichi looked up and nodded with a gentle smile. Recognising he was giving me permission to see what was inside, I gently pulled it open and rolled it into the palm of my hand. Its dull lustre signed silver when reflecting the moonlight. It's like a bullet from a gun. It's just in the shape of a bullet. What is this? Just what it looks like. It's a bullet from a toy gun. Keiichi had a lonely, bitter smile on his face as he said that. Let's talk seriously for a bit. Do you mind listening? I've been talking seriously this whole time. My bad. Anyway, I want you to hear this, alright? I slightly nodded to him. Then Keiichi began to speak slowly, like every single word squeezed out of him. I told you how I went back to Tokyo a little while ago for a relative's funeral, right? Actually, there was one other reason. Rika, how much do you know about my past? Particularly about the problems I had back in Tokyo. So you already know. Then let me move on to the explanation. Truth is, I went to visit the home of the last person I shot. Mum and Dad both begged me to stop. We'd already paid them compensation and talked things over, and I even went with my parents once before to apologise. If I showed up again, I'd just be stirring up bad feelings. That's what they said. But I wasn't convinced. In the end, I never actually atoned for my sins. I just hid behind my parents as they shouldered the burden. That's unforgivable. A lot of people were hurt, and their families, and my parents too. Up until now, I never even considered anyone else's feelings. I was such an idiot. I hated that side of myself. I was ashamed of it. At the very least, I wanted to retake responsibility of my original sin, rather than forcing my parents to bear it. I was expecting to receive a thorough beating. I was prepared for the possibility she wouldn't even want to meet with me. But when I got on the train and as I walked down the road leading to her house, my courage slowly receded and my feet became so heavy it was like they were stuck to the ground. It's fine, they were already paid compensation. It's fine, I was already caught by the police and the situation was resolved. Plus, I already apologised once before. If you lack in context, what happened is that Keiichi was relatively friendless and under a lot of pressure to do well in school and was just, snapped from the pressure and bought a BB gun and was shooting kids, and a kid got very seriously injured from it because BB guns ain't nothing to mess with, and so we got in trouble with the police. And basically because of that, that's the main reason, one of the reasons that they moved to Hinamizawa is that they were like, hey, the silly living, this ain't it, chief. I made excuses every time I stopped at a traffic light or intersection. I don't know how many times I felt the urge to turn back. But even so, I smacked my face over and over again and somehow managed to endure. I finally arrived at the front of the house. I rang the doorbell. The bell let out a powerful echoing sound. I felt my heart was going to freeze over. When I heard a voice coming from the intercom, I didn't know what to say. My throat was trembling. I lost all the strength in my body and tears came running from my eyes. Still, I somehow managed to squeeze the words out to say that my name was Keiichi Mibara. When I heard the person on the other side of the intercom just breathing, I wanted to die. I don't remember how long it took after that. It may have been a long time or no time at all. But for me it went on forever, like waiting for a death sentence. And in the end, even if you wait forever, there'll never be an end for it. I felt helpless for so long. Cold sweat came seeping out my entire body, non-stop, and my eyes were swelling and spinning round and round. It hurt like hell. And then I couldn't believe it. It was like my desire had me daydreaming, because on the other side of the door was a girl that I'll never forget. I looked at her. Her bandages were gone. Her injuries had healed. Just seeing that made me feel glad, relieved, and sorry. But I couldn't think of anything to say to apologise. So I cried out loud. I collapsed on the spot and sobbed as I squeezed the words out. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Even after she comforted me, even after stepping inside her house, I couldn't think of anything else to say. I just kept desperately repeating those words. So what happened after that? I'd been carefully listening to Keiichi's story without interrupting, but I couldn't help but ask. I'd heard this story from Keiichi before. The girl was seriously injured. If everything could be settled peacefully with just an apology, we'd never need the police or the courts. But even so, Keiichi. I was ready to receive a beating from the girl's father, but he didn't. Instead, he just gave me a harsh scolding. It was actually more poignant. Somehow he managed to overcome his past and had a calm smile on his face. Of course, crying and apologising would settle the matter or undo the sins I committed. But in the end she told me, I forgive you. According to Keiichi, the girl's parents didn't even want her to meet up with him. First she wanted to say terrible things to him and send him away too. Nevertheless, when she saw him desperately apologising like that, she wanted to hear him out. And in the end she started feeling better and even wanted to forgive him. Just based on what Keiichi said, I think I was able to understand how she felt. Keiichi was probably able to convey his honest desire to apologise to her, because rather than offering her flowery words, money or valuables, he was speaking from the heart. Gonna sneeze. Pardon me. If Keiichi had asked for forgiveness simply because his parents gave him money, she would never have forgiven him. And this is the bullet from the toy gun that hurt her eye. She kept it all this time, but she handed it to me as I was about to leave. Please promise me you'll never hurt anyone again. And would you take this as a reminder of that bullet, as a reminder of that vow? So I swore it. That I'd never even consider doing something so stupid again. A lot of people hated me for my awful misbehaviour, so I vowed to protect the people around me and keep them from getting hurt. That's what I decided. And I think that's all I can do to atone for what I've done. Keiichi. I couldn't say anything. At first I thought the Keiichi of this world was an aberration, but that wasn't the case at all. Quite the opposite. He faced the crime he committed, reflected on it, apologised and accepted his punishment. He's here because he wants everyone to surmount the wall that drives them to run away. I can't do that. I can't be like him. I was overwhelmed with envy as I listened to Keiichi's story, and my excitement dissipated like mist, along with an indescribable feeling of defeat. Keiichi, that's admirable. Choosing to fight rather than running away. Dark emotions nagged at my heart as I said that. You really are different from me. You're so kind, so strong. Not a coward like me. So... You're wrong, Rika. Meep. I learned the importance of kindness and trust as payment for my sins. But the reason that happened at all was you, Rika. I'm the reason for that? Yeah. Don't you remember? Keiichi took a deep breath and continued. My expectation that I couldn't be any more surprised was further betrayed. Rika, you told me back then. I forgive you. Huh? I was so uncool, huh? I wanted someone to forgive me so I could look away from my own shallowness. I wanted to be comforted after the shameful things I did. But Rika, you told me you knew everything and said you'd forgive me. That's why I finally gained the courage to apologise to the person I hurt. Keiichi? No way. Can't be. It's possible. Must be a coincidence. It can't be it. I'm certain I said that to Keiichi in a previous world. I want to believe it. I can't believe it. I want to believe it. I can't believe it. But I want to believe. Has there ever been a miracle like this before? Keiichi. The Keiichi of that world? Passed on those memories and he has them now. I could no longer see anything. I simply cried. I wanted to transform my sins into tears and squeeze them out of my eyes. But the tears coming out weren't my sins. They were only tears of remorse over my irredeemable grief. Back then I felt a pat on my head. When I opened my eyes, it was Rika stroking my head with her hand. I don't need to be consoled. There's no way Rika can comfort me over this. But then Rika spoke, not just to comfort me. Keiichi, I forgive you. Huh? Keiichi, you noticed your sin on your own. It's a very difficult thing to do, and not something everyone can. Not everyone can understand how great you are, and hence they can't forgive you. But I can, because I know how great you are. I have no memory of this. Rika, I know this is a miracle. You noticed the sin you committed in another world. That's impossible to do. But you did it. That is the most unbelievable and precious of miracles that could exist in this world. Oh, hang on, wait. So, you didn't run away. That's why I was able to sincerely say that to you. I have very vague memories of that now. I think what you told me back then was the reason I was able to save Rena, and why I was able to find redemption for my sins and achieve salvation even in this world, and why I'm able to continue having strong faith in everyone. It's all thanks to you, Rika. Keiichi. Thank you, Rika. And sorry for taking so long to remember. I'd forgotten, and it wasn't until I saw Rena that I could remember. I couldn't speak. My throat was painfully clogged and I couldn't control it. Is this a miracle? No way. Keiichi actually remembers what I told him back then. I'm doing what I can right here and now, all thanks to what you did back then. I told you before that I do what I can to help, but it's different now. I want to be your strength. Rika, you were the one who saved me from my self-hatred, so let's search together and find a way, hiccup, that you can be happy. Keiichi. Keiichi stroked my head with a kind-hearted smile on his face. Looking at his gentle smile, I felt angry and embarrassed that I was too cynical to honestly ask for his help. And above all, I was ashamed of myself for doubting Keiichi's goodwill. I'm sorry, Keiichi. I said awful things to you, and I've thought a lot of terrible things. I was scared and couldn't believe in your kindness. But I'm not sure if you heard the honk outside. You may not because it's too quiet, but pretty soon we'll be hearing a honk back. There we go. That's the stuff. I looked at you with distrust. I'm sorry. Me too. I'm sorry. I made all kinds of trouble for you in the previous worlds, didn't I? I can't remember very clearly, but I doubted everyone before, just like you said, and I ended up transforming into some sort of tragic hero figure. So I want to do things right this time. Rika, will you let me help you? Yes. Keiichi, it's so reassuring to have you with me. I always thought I had to fight this world on my own. It was always so painful. Rika, you're not alone. There's Mion, Rena, Toko, and Shion too. We're all your friends. So when the time comes, let's get everyone involved and tell them everything so we can fight together. I'm certain we can make a breakthrough. Because fate is as flimsy as a thin sheet of paper. He said it again. He told me the exact same line again. Then I'll believe. I was worried about this world without Hanyu, no matter how much it could take a turn for the better, but as long as he's here, we might be able to manage somehow. No, I'm certain we'll be able to do it. Keiichi. Rika? I reached down from the top of the stone steps to touch Keiichi's cheek. Then Keiichi took the hand that was rubbing my head and gently slid it down to my cheek, with a smile on his face. It's like a special handshake. A sort of ritual where we recognised our mutual trust in one another. I'll tell you what I've wanted to keep secret all this time. And if I do, will you be able to save me? From this hellish prison of endless reincarnation? Me and my precious friends? Of course. Thank you. As soon as I said that, I let loose the words I'd been holding in my heart. Our enemy is Miotsukushi. All the events related to the curse in Hinamizawa are a product of a man-made conspiracy. Then, I slowly began to tell Keiichi everything. About all the horrifying incidents and miserable circumstances I'd witnessed in the previous worlds. I was thinking about this, and throughout, certainly basically up until the 7th loop, and really up until the 8th loop, the big question was, is it supernatural or is it human intervention? And then, of course, the answer is kind of both, because the curse of Hinamizawa, inverted commas, and, the actual story of the things that happen are human intervention. But the overarching, connecting, unifying, idea of the game is supernatural. And I get the impression, I don't know if this is a fact, that the idea is that Higurashi is sort of set in the world of Umineko, which I believe is more I don't know if it has the same, is it human or is it supernatural stuff? But I know that that Rika is there, and that she has some sort of role, though I don't know what role. But she is there and she's just straight up vibing. So as the sort of way I understand it at the moment is that the world of Hinamizawa is one that is 100% normal. Hanyu and Rika are both outside of that world in the sense that they are the Umineko bit sort of leading into Higurashi, even though Higurashi came first. I don't know, this is just a theory. A game theory. Chapter 6, whoops, no, 7. That was 9. Oh my god. That was 9. That's 2. End of chapter 9, so end of chapter 11. 12, 13 maybe, we'll see. I think we're back to the comedy bit now. The numerical tables being drawn inside my head were rapidly changing like a swirling vortex. They incorporated all the artificial and natural elements around me, and when combined they began pointing me in a specific direction. Now choose. The god of fate gave me a finite number of options and mercilessly pushed me to select one. My fingertips were trembling. They felt hot, yet somehow also cold to the touch. A foul, tense sigh rose up through my throat as my chest painfully tightened. Has this been going on a long time, or was it only just a moment? I couldn't tell at all while trapped in this atmosphere of despair. A large volume of sweat came dribbling down my forehead and suddenly dripped down to my cheeks. Come on, enough. Just pick one already, Keiichi. Uh-huh. Mion leaned forward and glared at me with a terrifying look on her face. She was holding 2 brand new playing cards in her hand, with their backs turned towards me, like telling me to draw one. You've been mumbling and grumbling to yourself for a while now. What, you want a trip in your own little world? Come on, pick one already. Because this is the last one that'll determine whether you end up laughing or crying. I can't help it. This is the one that divides between heaven and hell. Anyone would take their time making their decision. I wiped away my dripping sweat and stared at the cards held out to me once again. This is totally unrelated, but there's an expression, trickling wet, used to describe a breathtakingly handsome man, and yet if you were to use the phrase trickling sweat to describe him, nobody would want to be near him. Yet both are equally moist. I'm confused. I have never once in my life heard the phrase, trickling wet. What? I focused on something as heard like that as a temporary escape from reality. The story began an hour ago. After school, we had our classroom club activities like usual, and Okamura suggested a group-based Old Bachelor tournament. The rules were simple. We assembled into groups of 4. The top 2 winners in each group moved up to the final tournament, where we continued going through eliminations until only one person remained. Well, that's all fine. But the problem is, the usual punishment rules apply to all the losers. The younger club members seemed to have no sense of moderation, so they suggested some of the most shockingly absurd penalties. They whispered to challenge the principal to one-on-one combat and don't go down for 10 seconds. Drink a whole glass of milk from a cat's bowl without using utensils. Shoot peanuts with your eyes, etc., etc. Ultimately, only the original club members made it to the end, so the others were facing certain death in the classroom. At this point, Rena, Toko, and Rika had gotten out too, leaving only Mion and myself. And then Mion realised I had a 3 of diamonds in my hand, so she challenged me to an open reach duel. Open reach, meaning that the winner of the entire game would be decided whether the card I draw here is a 3 of diamonds or not. In other words, this long battle will finally come to an end the moment I make this choice. I've never played Old Maid or Old Bachelor in my life. I'm very bad at card games, and the reason for this is that my mum's family is into card games, and Mum offered to teach me when I was younger, but she always beat me, so I was like, I don't want to play this anymore. I want to play a game that I'm good at, like Scrabble, because I can do words. I just, cards can't be doing that. It doesn't always mean I win at Scrabble. My mum wins sometimes. We're fairly even at that, but cards, Mum will thrash me. So there's a lot of card games that I just never learn. Like, I'm sure they're, like, whatever. This long battle will finally come to an end the moment I make this choice. So which will it be, Keiichi? Hurry up and choose already. Mion had a fearless smile on her face as she shook the cards to provoke me. But the risk of losing and receiving a punishment is exactly the same for Mion, so... Hiccup. Where on earth is that confidence coming from? Come on, Keiichi. The dead are calling from behind you. As soon as she said that, I could hear the resentful voice of the damned coming from behind me. Isn't that the voice of one of the younger students? Oh, come on, you guys. It's nice that you all thought of fun and interesting punishments, but you have to think about the fact that we're going to be drawing them too. I held my head and shouted back at Okamura and, oh my god, Tomita and Okamura and the others beside me who'd already fallen. Incidentally, the punishment Daiki drew was write a love letter confessing to the person you like. That sounds like a letter sealed in blood. He got his heart stomped on by Toko a mere 2 seconds after attempting this maneuver. Utterly stomped. Suguru drew catch a fly with chopsticks, so he spent his time running around chasing a fly. When he realised it was actually a wasp, he ran like his life depended on it, and when he finally came back, he immediately sank to the ground. It certainly was a great opportunity to know the horrors of our club. It was a particularly exciting affair for the whole class. But of course that's all built on the assumption that it's happening to someone else. Those sparks of fire were drifting my way. There's no way I'd be laughing. In fact, I'd probably want to cry. Keiichi, hurry up and pick. Rena's been dressed like this for too long now. There's no way I can get married like this. Rena had tears in her eyes as she scornfully urged me to hurry. Indeed, if the way she looked right now was a character sprite in a game, it'd definitely have to be censored. When it was displayed on screen, I can understand her desire to get changed right away. If I had to walk home with Rena the way she is now, I'd take her on quite a journey. Meep. This sort of attire was supposed to be a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Rika was crying and hanging her head while dressed in her ancient war/school swimsuit costume. I'd a hunch she submitted that request, but he'd already fainted, so we couldn't even appreciate it. It's like that saying about a crafty screamer drowning in his own skiing, or maybe just a little different. Incidentally, Stoko was still passed out after receiving her punishment from the semi-final game, eating an entire plate of curry in front of Miss Chie, who was currently banned from eating curry. Who thought out of that Mission Impossible scenario? And listen to the screams from the lowest levels of hell. The god of death is dancing the waltz for you. Welcome, Keiichi. Now, are you ready? Not laughing. Totally not laughing. Now, whether you end up laughing or crying, this is the end. Which should it be, left or right? Help me God, a man's gotta have fighting spirits. I like the fact that both are the right option, which means probably that both are the wrong option. I'm gonna save. Primarily because I want to see the different dialogues. For better or for worse, lend me your strength. I offered a prayer to the Almighty God, put all my strength into choosing a card, and grabbed it. Sure enough. Huh? Something wrong, Keiichi? No, I think my eyesight must have just gotten worse. Even though I grabbed the 3 of diamonds, there's a huge black spade mark on top of it. Something strange going on here. Seems like the thing right before my eyes shouldn't exist. Come to think of it, there's a lot of stuff I just can't do these days. Thought I was doing okay, but in the end my body must have been telling me the truth. I'm probably just exhausted. Keiichi? No good. I won't be able to fulfill my duties as a class rep like this. Come on, Keiichi, pull yourself together. Massaged my temples and wiped my eyes with a handkerchief and took 2 long deep breaths. Then I took another look at the playing card in my hand. It's weird. Once again, I could see a conspicuously huge spade mark on top of the 3 of diamonds. Is that what they call an after image or a doppelganger? Oh, is it actually a case of gestaltable? No idea what that means. Keiichi, I can kind of understand how you must feel not wanting to see reality. But that's the Ace of Spades. Liar. Lying. But that really is the Ace of Spades? A symbol of misfortune. Incidentally, Stoko is still passed out. No matter how you look at it, that's a spade, Keiichi. Rena and Rika and even Shion, who'd apparently just arrived, all acted like I was delusional. Can you guys really not see the 3 of diamonds engraved on this playing card? Wow, Keiichi, do you really think this looks like a 3 of diamonds? It's time to take you to the hospital. To both an ophthalmologist and a psychiatrist. No way. Everyone, you're being deceived. I'm absolutely sure that I grabbed the 3 of diamonds. But in a modern nation governed by laws like Japan, decisions are made based on popular vote, and so Mion was declared the victor, and me the loser. In the middle of that commotion, even I didn't notice as Mion secretly transferred the 3 of diamonds from her pocket to the pile of cards with an innocent expression on her face. You're still too soft, Mr. Club Leader. Now the long-awaited moment has arrived. Go ahead and pull out your punishment. Mion shook the box full of paper scraps with punishments written on them. She looked so happy, so energetic and full of life. Does human misery taste like honey to her? Yeah. This chapter is this a punishment game? And the next one is library date, so exciting. So pick one already. Come on, pick one. Do it. Remember this. Oh my, that barking dog voice feels so lovely. By the way, I still haven't seen the punishment I wrote, so good luck if you grab that one. Punishment Mion thought of? How horrifying. I'm afraid you even think about it. Is it right if I ask you what kind of punishment it is first? Here's an example. Eat a whole plate of the shishibane local specialty Yagochi stew. Yagochi stew? This dish I'd never heard of it. Come to think of it, the quarry for the dam construction project was located in a place called Yagochi. Villagers once told me it's located in the windward direction from Hinamisawa, and they used to spray pesticides via helicopters launched from there. Back in the old days, they used to catch a lot of massy trout over there, but nowadays not a lot of people go there. So when I hear stew, it sounds like I'm something completely normal. What kind of dish is it really? Right, it's a miso soup literally made of yago. Can you even eat that? And by the way, yago means dragonfly larva. Meep. Rika was kind enough to explain it for everyone around us. She said it like she was looking into a camera, but I could have done without that kind of footnote. Good old fourth wall breaking Rika. And what are you talking about? I bought food that contained grasshoppers and not hornet pupa before, Keiichi, and you ate it up, saying it was rather good. It's no different from that. But you didn't tell me I was eating bugs until after I finished. Upon hearing all that, my appetite vanished in an instant. I'd like to praise myself for not running straight to the bathroom. It's alright, Keiichi. Rena's punishment is still in there too. I wonder if that's a good thing. I turned my eyes towards Rena, who said that to try and comfort me. Rena had been feeling out of it for a while since that incident, but she was finally getting back to normal by following Mion's lead. Worrisome. That's nice, but Rena's punishment is still in there, so what could it be? What kind of punishment did you come up with? You want to hear it? Behind Rena's smile, I sensed a terrifying and dangerous glow in her eyes. Correction, she's pretty much completely back to normal. I think I'll pass. Oh, that's too bad. But it's really fun, huh? Please, God, no matter how mad my luck is, let Rena's punishment remain hidden away forever. By the way, Satoko is still passed out. My punishment is still in there too, Nipa. Rika, don't say another word. I could imagine it without hearing anything more. If I pull hers, I'll end up having a grudge against everything in the world. So with that in mind, are you ready? Even though my gut was telling me to run away, so I put my hand into the box and grabbed the first piece of paper I found and pulled it out with hesitation. And then... What is it? Sorry, would you mind reading it for me? I'm scared to do it myself. I trembled and turned away as I held it up to Mion. Totally exaggerating. There's no way it's something lethal. What is it? The moment Mion fell back twice folded meant she tensed up and froze in place. Mion? Oh. It seemed like she started moving again, but little by little her body began trembling. Mion? What is this? The air within the classroom shattered under the force of Mion's high-pitched, rage-filled roar. When she noticed the way everyone was staring at her, she came back to her senses, and her face turned as red as an octopus. What's the matter, Mion? What's written on it? This is far too harsh, Keiichi, so we're not going to count it. Mion rushed to hide the note behind her back, and she let her shoe squeak as she immediately scrambled back towards the wall. What on earth is written there? Tomita? Okamura? Roger that. Huh? Guys? As soon as Shion waved her finger, Daiki and Suguru split left and right and moved around behind Mion. And then they swiped the note that Mion was slickly trying to hide behind her back and ran back to Shion and respectfully handed it over to her. Shion, since when did you have Tomita and Okamura trained like your own personal henchmen? Satoko, you finally recovered? I sensed something amusing afoot, so I've returned from the road to Hades. Too bad this one didn't sleep forever. Reminds me of a fic I read a couple of times because it's very, very funny. One of the characters says to another, "Did you wake up at the vague mention of making trouble?" It's like, yes, let's pretend that's what happened. What could it be? Huh? Go on a date with the person you like? Report required? Whoa. Everyone in the class exploded in a roar that I seriously thought might shatter the windows. Wait a minute. Go on a date with the person you like? Who's that supposed to be? I'm not that sort of guy, am I? Everyone's eyes were focused on me. And then their eyes slowly turned towards someone else. Towards Mion. And when the eyes turned back towards me again, everyone was grinning and giving me a thumbs up. Hold on, you guys. This is all a huge misunderstanding. What's with those smiles? What's with those hand signals? Class rep and the former class rep are going on a date. Awesome. That's our class rep, totally different from the rest of us. Everyone in the class, boys and girls alike, were running wild with cheers of joy and longing sighs. Keiichi and Mion are going on a date. What kind? Oh, the time has finally come to Keiichi to reap his yearly dues. Make a decision now and enjoy your time together. Rena and Satoko both had bright red faces, so they violently shouted to Shion. No, I'm begging you, please stop. Who on earth thought up this punishment? Just considering the gender relationships in this class, isn't this an unsafe card even if someone else were to draw it? And apparently everyone has their sights set on Mion and I? Seriously? Hey, Rika. Meep. There's the only chance that this punishment was... Meep. No doubt about it. this little tanuki of a girl knowingly committed this crime. Besides, just a date. But for going wild like this is poking a beehive? Oh my, Keiichi, do you not have any experience with girls? Experience or not, I hang out with you guys and make a big fuss every day, don't I? Well, that's true, but what about a one-on-one date? When I went treasure hunting at the trash heap with Rena, that was just the two of us. When I went to the toy store with Shion and our arms crossed. When I went shopping with Toko and we ate dinner together. And with Rika, if you really think about it, well... Keiichi, you're quite the playboy. What a terrible person. Come to think of it, it's outrageous he's gone out with all of us, isn't it? You're so filthy, Keiichi. Wait, hold on. They're all scornfully glaring at me. But if you think about it, Sis is the one person he hasn't spent any time alone with. Now that I mention it, even though we've hung out together so many times, I can't think of a single one-on-one situation like that. What did that mean? Congratulations, Mion, your first date. Sis? Hey, sis, you still alive? Shion called out to her several times, but Mion showed no reaction. Unbelievable. Are you not happy to be going on your first date? And then a wisp of wind blew in through the slightly open window. Made a loud thud as she hit the ground beneath her. This again? She's been blowing fuses like this recently. And whose fault is that? After saying that, the club members all turned their eyes at once like they knew where the wind was blowing from. Shit. In the end, we couldn't leave her laying on the classroom floor like that, so we brought her to the nurse's office. And with Miss Cheer's permission, we set up a bed for her to lay down on. At least for now, things seem to have calmed down with me on peacefully asleep. It's kind of amusing to see her with a nosebleed stain, but since she's a girl, I'll pretend I never saw it. Can't relate, get nosebleeds all the time, incredibly used to it. Anyway, Marika, that must have taken ridiculous preparation. I thought it'd be fun if that one got picked, but I didn't think it was going to happen until it actually did. That's right. There should have been over 100 of those in there, so you're super lucky that one got picked. Would it be excessive to say it was actually unlucky? Anyway, Keiichi, we're going to head home now, so thanks in advance. You're all leaving? At least stay until Neon wakes up. Better for us to step aside rather than be a fly in the ointment. Ho-ho. After saying that, Shion and the others made their way out of the nurse's office. And in the end, right as Rika was about to close the door, our eyes met and she lightly tilted her head. What's wrong, Keiichi? Hey, Rika. I felt a little something tugging at my heart, so I decided to ask Rika about it. You said before that fate is already decided. Did you put that card in there and hoping I'd end up drawing it? Well, I wonder. Rika mischievously tilted her head to the side and quietly chuckled. I couldn't hide my confusion, but then she faintly spoke up with her eyes facing down. I certainly did want you to draw that card, Keiichi. But the fact of the matter is it was your own power that allowed you to draw it from over 100 others. It's neither an accident nor certain. I think you summoned it yourself with your own strong bond. Bond? I've always believed that fate was predetermined, but now after seeing you, I can confidently say that's not the case. I'm certain that fate is like a crystallization of human will. So someone's strong thoughts and feelings, sometimes involving even the people around them, may have a major impact on the course of that flow. So, like, flip a coin, doesn't matter whether it's head or tails, you'll know what outcome you want by the time it lands. Rika. Thank you, Keiichi. Then Rika raised her head and looked up at me. Her face looked bright, cute, and very happy, and I'm sure that's no hallucination. You showed me what's really important. I only wish I'd met you a little sooner. Once the door closed, the room suddenly fell quiet. I couldn't help hearing the sound of Neon breathing in her sleep. Her chest was faintly moving up and down. I suddenly started feeling awkward and stood up, then walked over to the window. The dazzling summer sun was pouring down and the green hue of the trees was shining. I could see the other students out in the schoolyard, heading home after finishing club activities. Their lively cheers and shouts transmitted their warm enthusiasm to me. Fate, huh? I suddenly remembered what Rika told me about the worst possible future, and the true identity of our enemy. To be completely honest, I still can't be sure what's going to happen until I see it with my own two eyes. And why is Rika repeating the same time period over and over with all kinds of memories? And even though I do remember bits and pieces of my past memories, I still don't understand why. According to Rika, I still haven't recovered my memories of the previous world, where we learned the identity of our enemy. So even though she told me the enemy is that nurse, Takano, nothing has come back to me. But there's an organization called Tokyo connected to the Irie Institute, and some endemic disease called Hinamizawa syndrome. Given how serious and sincere Rika was when she told me that, I think I can trust her word. And thanks to her, we were able to prevent the misfortune that might have befallen Toko and Rena. That alone was enough to make me thankful that Rika shared a secret with us. But it's not over yet. It's just like Rika said last night. The real battle hasn't even begun. Can we really win? Wrong button, sorry. Oh shit, wrong button. If it's as Rika says, the enemy targeting her is both cunning and extremely powerful. Definitely not an enemy we can overcome with a simple brute force approach. We'll have to fight carefully and in the proper way to forestall this foe. And when the time comes, we'll definitely need to depend on the strength of our ever-reliable club members. Well, Rika told me it's best to wait quietly for now, so this isn't the time to take action. So I pulled myself together and stopped dwelling on it. It's fun to think about the intent behind people's words and actions, but if you go too far, it can make you anxious or distrusting. Even a simple action can make you feel overly sensitive. For example, if I were to see something lurking behind every casual act of goodwill, I'd start to see everyone around me as malicious. I'd be astonished to not have any good friends at my side. Of course, as I am right now, I'd never do that. But I do have some memory of another version of myself doing just that, getting lost in a dead end, and ultimately destroying myself. I've seen it in my dreams. When I look at the me from back then, I say to myself, don't repeat your past mistakes. Keiichi, I forgive you. Rika's words back then did so much to put my heart at ease. So when she came to me asking for salvation, I made her a promise. I'll believe her, because it's not just anybody who told me this, it's Rika. I heard a sigh coming from the bed and turned towards me. She'd just woken up and was still in a daze, absent-mindedly looking up at the ceiling. Oh, you're awake? Your circuit breaker tripped over for a bit there. Keiichi, am I... You fainted all of a sudden. It was really shocking, like something out of a manga. Huh? I'm sorry. She sounded embarrassed as she said that. She lifted the covers up past her nose in an attempt to hide the bright red look on her face. After that suddenly cutesy gesture, our desperate one-on-one battle just a little while ago suddenly felt like a lie. Sorry, I keep hitting all the wrong buttons. What is it? What are you smiling about? Nothing. You really are entertaining, Mion. We could go out every day and I'd never get bored. Somehow it feels like you're making fun of me. You suck, Keiichi. Go home already. You want me to go home? Then let's get going. Mion sulkily turned away as she said that. I shrugged my shoulders in exasperation and walked over to the bed. Sensing that signal, Mion squirmed over to her corner of the bed, and I struggled to hold back my laughter as she curled up and turned her back towards me. Then I spoke. So about that punishment. I could tell just looking. Mion reacted to that with a full body jump. This is fun. Too fun. That's not important. And plus, that's got nothing to do with me, right? How about Shion and maybe Rena? Those two are far more fun and interesting. Oh, maybe. Right. So it's got nothing to do with me. She's looking depressed. Is she really being honest here? Anyway, with me on the stubborn mode like this, I'm sure she wouldn't agree even if I forced her to hang out. In which case, maybe... Hey, Mion. What? About that. Would you like to go to the library this Sunday? The library? Mion suddenly looked up at me with a vacant expression. You need to concentrate on studying for your entrance exams, right? I got some nice reference books, so why don't we study together? I'd like to prepare myself for upcoming exams too. You don't have to. I can do it on my own. Don't take entrance exams lightly, right? You have to squeeze the points out of your textbook, like every single subject. Otherwise, you're just surrendering unconditionally. It's really an ordeal. The Mion Sanozaki I know is invincible, undefeated, far too great to be rivaled. That's why I'll never accept you coming home defeated by bastards who can't do anything but grind away studying for entrance exams. Just nearly dropped my phone there. Keiichi. Sunday at 11 a.m. in front of the Okonomiya Library. And Mion, even if you don't come, I'll be studying there alone. But I'll be waiting for you. Mion abruptly turned back this way and stirred slightly. Somehow it seemed like she started to nod when she turned this way, but I didn't dare ask her anymore. Even if she doesn't confirm it here, I'm sure she'll come. At least I think so. Just then I could hear the chimes coming from the principal's office in the distance. It was already time to leave school. Time to head home. Mion got up as she said that. She was waking up, but she was still a little shaky. Still, she should be back to normal in a little while. You alright? I'll go get your bags, so wait here. Oh, Keiichi. Mion called out to me just as I reached the door of the nurse's office. I looked back with a expression, and her eyes met. She whispered something with a complex, somewhat shy look on her face. And then she muttered something. Cute. Huh? Sorry, I didn't quite hear that. It's nothing. Then I'll be waiting. Mion waved her arms as she said that and smiled. For the time being, I just tilted my head instead of saying anything else, then opened the door and went out into the hallway. Oh, right. Mion? Huh? You're welcome. What? Mion turned bright red and steam came rising out. I smiled at that, then headed to the classroom. I could hear Mion angrily shouting, "You moron," from behind me, and I spit out the huge laugh I'd been holding in. The sunset coming in through the window dyed the wooden hallways red. I hope it's sunny this Sunday. With those thoughts in mind, I rushed over to the classroom. This is 13, I think. I need a tips thing to tell me. Like if I hit load, it would tell me where I was. Well, we'll see. I arrived at the Okonomiya Library 30 minutes before our scheduled meeting time. Anyway, there's nice weather today, just as I hoped for. But it doesn't really matter whether it's rainy or sunny if we're going to be indoors, but it does affect the mood. Either way, I think I'm just going to do this chapter because my voice hurts and I'm warm and I'm kind of like, ugh. The early morning summer sun and the clear sky felt lovely. The air felt nice and clean as I breathed in while parking my bike at the bike rack and making my way to the main entrance. I got here earlier than expected, and of course Mion wasn't here yet. Thinking that, I headed to the entrance intending to buy myself a can of juice. But just then, Keiichi. Huh? I completely overlooked her because she didn't stand out much, but, yes. Sorry, I was surprised assignments tomorrow. They're all due at midnight though, so we're good. Good morning. Love Mion's like shy blushy face. It really is cute. Hey, you're here awfully early. I got the time wrong. Mion awkwardly laughed and looked embarrassed as she said that. Did she really make a mistake with the watch right there on her wrist? I kind of wanted to ask. Mion was dressed in her usual clothes with her usual hairstyle. I asked Rena to indirectly suggest she come dressed in everyday clothes, so she must have listened to Rena. Well, I did kind of want to see Mion dressed up in a fashionable outfit, but I felt she'd get more awkward if she got too fired up, so I saved the fun for next time. Nonetheless, her lips had a slightly more rouge tint to them than the usual pink, which looked cuter than normal. I'm sure that's a recent line of lipstick. Thanks to that, I recall the nightmare I witnessed at our previous club activity. No, let's forget about that. You seem pretty girly today, huh, Mion? No way. I'm just the same as always. I was actually expecting Rose to water. I'm always a girl. Something about Mion today made her seem especially high spirits. Apologies for the engine noise outside. Mion really is the bicon that we need. Bi-icon. I've claimed her as bi, whether or not anyone else agrees. Did you bring everything I asked you to? Your reference books, sound workbooks? Of course. I'd never forget. Deep in my heart, I felt relieved. Seems he's avoided the worst case scenario. Anyway, sorry, well, brain empty, no thoughts indeed. What's after library date? The truth revealed, which I'm kind of uncomfortable about, so let's save that for next time. I recall her asking yesterday, Keiichi, what do you want to eat tomorrow? She was in a complete panic, so I couldn't help asking her, what on earth are we going to do to determine the most basic of basics in our situation? I still can't deny the possibility that she grabbed a strategy guide for some game by mistake and brought that with. Alright, let's go. Yeah. Mion's face was burning red as she gave me a big nod, then awkwardly walked beside me. Hey Mion, your arms and legs are moving at the same time. As soon as we stepped through the automatic doors, we were immediately bathed in the cool, carefully regulated air conditioning. It felt chilly and refreshing, but it did seem a little too cold considering we hadn't yet reached the heat of the day. I miss you, air conditioning. When Mion and I entered the study area, I checked the seats farthest from the aircon. It's easier to start feeling sick when you're too cold, and that'll prevent you from staying focused. I learnt that from my cram school teacher a long time ago. What's wild to me is that these guys are like 14, 15. That's like ridiculous. I guess these are like high school entrance exams, but still, I don't get it. Well, anyway. There are open seats over there. I was thinking, I don't remember studying that hard for my entrance exams for secondary school, and then I remembered that I only got into 2 secondary schools. I did study for my GCSEs, but not like my A levels and my uni exams, obviously. Whatever. I looked at the space in the corner of the room and found a spot that looked perfect. There was a table for 4 facing towards the window that wasn't in direct sunlight. This is a self-study room, but there aren't a lot of people here using it like there were back in the city. So Mion and I decided to sit across from each other on the table so we could sit face to face. Ow. You were right. I'm fine. Totally fine. Mion must have banged her knee into the table as she tried to sit down. She's still moving pretty awkwardly. God, me. Anyway, it was a surprisingly narrow table considering it had 4 chairs. The 2 of us each laid out a reference book, a notebook and a dictionary to take up the entire table. This is a really small table, huh? Yeah. Should we just use one dictionary and share it between us? Sure. When our eyes met, Mion suddenly got startled and jumped. Sitting face to face at a table this small, it's only natural for us to look closely at one another's faces. And Mion's peculiar behaviour told me she still wasn't mentally prepared for this. Mion really is tsundere, but like in a positive way. In a nice way. Right. It's small, so let's share one dictionary. Her words weren't coming together at all. Was this atmosphere gradually getting more and more awkward? When Mion went to close the dictionary, she inadvertently knocked the eraser next to it off the table. She scrambled to pick it up off the floor, but her shoulder bumped against the leg of the table as she got up, causing her mechanical pencil to fall off the other side. Then she bent down again to pick up a pencil, but her head bumped against the corner of the table when she moved her body back, and the shake caused the reference book to fall to the other side. Hey, Mion? Huh? What is it? Keiichi? I picked up the reference book and handed it to Mion, who was clutching the back of her head with tears in her eyes, and then I spoke up. Anyway, let's try to calm down. Take a deep breath. Just as Mion began trying to apologise, I firmly grabbed her hand and pulled her close. Then I laughed with a big smile on my face to try and reassure her. Keiichi? You haven't done anything wrong, so there's no need to apologise. We're friends, right? Yeah. I realise you're nervous and a lot of things are flying through your head, but you need to calm down. I'm Keiichi Maebara and you're Mion Sonozaki. That's the same whether there's anyone else around us or not, right? It's like that time I called you and asked you to help Rena. When Rena was feeling depressed about her father's situation, the first thing I thought of was Mion. I was certain she'd be able to do something to help. If it was just Rika and I trying to comfort her when she was crying, we probably wouldn't have got through to her. But I was humbled to learn that Rena was able to bounce back immediately after that, and it was all thanks to Mion. You're right. At last, Mion seemed to be loosening up. She wiped her forehead with a handkerchief and took a deep breath, and then, after whispering something to herself, she raised her head and smiled. I'm so tired. But thinking about it, we really haven't done anything together as the two of us, have we? Even though we have so much fun together with the group every day, right? So I was feeling strangely excited. Still, that was getting a little too excited. But well, you are right about that. I have gone out to the garbage mountain with Rena before, just the two of us. But of course I wasn't about to mention that. Been thinking way too hard. All the guys I ever talked to are either younger boys or middle-aged men, right? So I wonder what the best way to talk to Keiichi face-to-face is. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. And for your information, I'm younger than you. No, well, I suppose that's true. I mean, once I became conscious of it, I started to have a different attitude compared to Rena and the others. Conscious? What's up with this? Mion's eyebrows are pointed like the hands of a clock at 1:50. Oh my god, what did I say earlier about Keiichi and his emotional awareness? He's still so dense. That's right. Keiichi, you got no problems at all, like always. Mion looked surprised, then nodded as she convinced herself of something. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but for now Mion's tone seemed to be back to normal, so I guess it's okay. Alright, let's start studying. Okay. Anyway, Mion and I began studying. 30 minutes later... Oh, Keiichi, is this the right answer here? Where at? Let me see. Although Mion is a grade above me, so I wonder if I'll be able to understand the question. Thinking that, I looked at the problem Mion was pointing to. Uh-huh. She really thinks the answer to the question is this? What's wrong, Keiichi? Is it a little tough for you? I was completely shocked to learn that Mion didn't understand the question. It's pretty much, really is the most basic of basics on the entrance exam. They literally call these first step questions. Just how far back is she? No, for the honour of the Sonozaki family's heiress, anyone who studied for entrance exams would probably be enraged to hear she's only at this level in her study. Just to make sure, let me ask, do you know what SVOC refers to in the context of English grammar? Brandy? That's VSOP. Ah! Incidentally, the answer is subject, verb, object, complement, and VSOP is a way of measuring the age of brandy. So of course there's no relationship between the two of them. None at all. That makes sense now. I think when you are learning English as second language, you learn it so differently. There's a lot of components that, like, English first language, you just don't learn. Even, like in my case, learning other languages, like you do the subject, verb, object, and I know like the different forms of the nouns and the different forms of the verbs and stuff like that, but I know it from Latin grammar. So if you ask me what something meant, I might be able to like translate it for you, but not always. I haven't done modern languages in 10 years, so they cover stuff in mandatory education, don't they? Mion, I'm going to take a quick look at your notebook. Huh? I decided to grab Mion's notes to see how she answered the other parts. Just as expected, and even more than expected, it was full of wrong answers. Wrong, and this is wrong too. That part's not even spelled in proper English. Is that Romaji? It's horrifying to think that Mion made it this far. Mion, what? This is extremely promising? It's extremely reckless. What have you been studying all this time? Well, this old man model is that practical experience is more important. I'd heard that before. Anyway, this is terrible. Really terrible. You really think you'll be able to move on to higher education like this? Don't say things like that to demotivate me, Keiichi. I'm a student getting ready for exams. No doubt about it. After seeing how much hell the kids in the city are going through, I can calmly and confidently say that that's the case. Besides, our school is at a level where you can pass if you just know the capitals of other countries of the world, you know? Don't compare me to your level, Keiichi. Sounds like something from a name comic. By the way, can you even name the capital of Brazil? I can't. She really is thinking seriously about her future. Anyway, you want to raise yourself up to entrance exam level for now, right? Sure, I'm all psyched up. I'll do my best. You really, and I mean seriously, need to try hard here. Leave it to me. Despite how it may look, I can perform well in a pinch. It'll be alright. Alright? Alright, she says. You're crazy if you think this is alright. If you could pass with this level of education, more people would pass than applicants in the world. You say you're all psyched up? You're making a huge mistake if you think you can solve everything with fighting spirit alone. No matter how much Rika says that fate is the crystallization of human will, if you can survive the entrance exams at your current ability, then people can fly through the sky riding on eels. My conscience and reasoning barely managed to suppress the words that desperately wanted to come bursting from my throat. If I say it, she'll cry. Even if it's Mion I'm talking to, she'll cry. I'm certain of it. Of course, that was a terrible thing to say to Mion right after she just told me how motivated she was. But even if it's a terrible thing to say, isn't it even more cruel to hide the truth? Up until now, I didn't know much about Mion's scholastic abilities. She was the one who suddenly told me she needed to study, so I wasn't expecting this. It's beyond my imagination, and I kind of regret offering to tutor her so casually. Anyway. Huh? On the other hand, that raises another mystery. Based on her current academic abilities, I can assume she's never studied before. But academic ability may not be very important in her role as successor to the Sonozaki family. In which case, why did she suddenly start studying for entrance exams? Hey, Mion. It's alright, I'll try my best. I know how it looks, but I'll be able to catch up quickly. I mean it. I'm not asking about that. What made you suddenly start studying for entrance exams? Huh? Mion's face turned red. Come on, not again. I'd hardly consider a question about why she began studying for the exams to be a reason to start blushing, but... What is it? Did I ask something weird? No. Mion? Well... It was a simple question about her motivation for studying, and yet Mion had a hard time saying it. It was clearly unusual, so she gave me a vague, no particular reason, answer. I wouldn't be convinced. Anyway, if you don't want to tell me, you don't have to say anything. But as a friend, I just wanted to ask what your reason was. Okay, I'll say it. Go ahead. I was thinking it would be nice to go to school together, okay? Together with who? Obviously with you, Keiichi. Huh? She started studying for the entrance exams because she wanted to go to the same school as me. That answer was so far outside my expectations that it left me speechless. Maybe I should say I was caught off guard by the explosion of moe cuteness in her answer. Compared to the usual Mion, this is beyond words. Still, if she said that deliberately, then she really got the better of me. But in the right chance that she meant that sincerely, even if you say you want us to go to school together, you're a year older than me, aren't you? Right, so even if it takes me a year, I'll catch up. Based on how she was now, though, it was hard to imagine her catching up in just a year. But no, it doesn't matter. It's risky, totally suicidal. I could tell that even my face was turning red. If she'd been completely frank with me, would I have been this embarrassed the whole time? At least for now, you have to calm down. Well, about that. Mion, I do think it might be fun going to school with you, you know? It might be. I'm certain it'll be fun, yeah. My voice has suddenly cracked and I was desperately trying to string together the words. Come on, I needed to stay calm. Anyway, even if her goal is to get into the same school, that doesn't mean she has to work really hard studying for exams. Okay. Keiichi, the pace you're going to end up in a college in Tokyo, right? But if that's the case, then my current education there would make it impossible for me to do the same, so... Let's see... Then Mion, you... That's right, I also want to go to Tokyo. Once again, she said something completely unexpected. I never imagined Mion leaving the village. But what about the Sonozaki family? I'll convince them to give me permission to go to college, but I'm sure it's going to cause some commotion within the Sonozaki family. Probably. Even if it's only temporary, it's a major issue for the future head of the Sonosaki family to leave Hinamizawa. Mion, were you always intent on going to Tokyo? Not at all, at least not until recently. But when I started thinking about going to school with you, it was my first time thinking about myself independent of the Sonosaki family. Mion smiled as she said that. It's true that I'm the next head of the family and a representative of Hinamizawa. So there was this inseparable notion that I was born and raised here, I get married, raise children, and die here. That's what I've been taught since I was a child. The village is everything to me. Seeking out fun things to do every day, making a lot of noise and living happily. For entire life. I never really thought about anything more than that. But well, I thought it over a bit. Our village is steadily changing. Apart from the people who've lived here since ancient times, there are also new families like yours, Keiichi. And the old-timers were able to accept you without anything bad to say. So I want to broaden my horizons. Of course, the actual reason is that I want to stay with you, Keiichi, but I think this is a very important lesson for my future too. Then she lightly tilted her head to ask me something. I like that in the middle of that, she just completely was like, oh yeah, it's because I also want to stay with you. Hey, Keiichi. After you finish college, do you think you'll stay in Tokyo? Well, up until now I would have said yes. But I've been thinking about that too. I was actually quite surprised about how naturally I answered that. After coming to Hinamizawa, I wanted to completely forget about my city life in Tokyo. I wanted to deny their very existence. Nevertheless, the reason I began thinking about that at all was because of the engagement party fiasco. I had plenty of great conversations with a lot of adults, especially Mion's relatives. The people of the Sonosaki family engage in such a wide variety of activities. There were congressmen and lawyers, and even the president of a restaurant and a manufacturer of name-brand goods. And even though they're active both inside and outside the village, the one thing they all have in common is that they consider Hinamizawa dear to them. Everyone is giving it their all to make this village a better place. To that end, they're cultivating their personal connections, knowledge and experience, then using those weapons to fight all out. The damn opposition movement probably would have been outright dismissed as some small local demonstration activity if these people hadn't taken such effective measures to work within the law. To put it another way, it was no exaggeration to say that these were the absolute best people to protect this village. You needed a weapon in order to fight. You need power in order to protect others. Obviously, increasing responsibility comes with increasing obligation, so it's necessary to face these challenges head-on, to overcome the barriers. What would I do in that position? I felt like it was more than just some puzzle game, so if I was conscious of that, I'd be studying every day. Back in the old days, I used to study without any sort of meaning behind it. I was happy just being praised by my parents for getting good grades, but I quickly grew bored of that. But what I did only gave me a tiny bit of self-satisfaction. And yet, if the things I learned were deeply tied to making other people happy, that would be such a wonderful thing. When I thought about it like that, I felt rather attached to the idea. Mood, like that's kind of... not entirely, but kind of where I see myself going, where like... what... I guess... like, I started a master's and I was like, I have no idea what I want to do with this degree. I just want to do this for like having studied because I'm so fascinated by the subject. And then now I'm like, I know more of what I want to do with it. And now I'm like, how do I get into this? Not academia, not teaching. What's the third option? Struggle. Keiichi. Mion had a gentle look on her face as she continued listening to my story. Unlike usual, she made no attempt to interrupt and tease me. But I cut myself off there, then continued like I remembered something. I planned to come back to Hinamizawa afterwards, because this is the place where I got my life back. And if I don't pay that back, I'll be punished. No doubt about that. Mion seemed pleased and responded with a big smile. Then, that's what I figured, Keiichi. Huh? I'm really glad to have you, Keiichi. Thanks. The atmosphere filled with a warmth I'd never felt between Mion and I before. The two of us going to college in Tokyo together, then coming back to Hinamizawa together. It was a vastlessly expanding dream. It seemed like we were plotting a course towards an endlessly bright future. And I felt content. Emails. Every day I get emails. Huh? Keiichi? And sis? Just then, An unexpected voice calling out to us from behind dispersed that warm atmosphere like mist. Shion? When I looked back, I found Shion standing there, and right beside her was... good morning, Keiichi, Mion. Hey. I tried my best to calm myself and respond to the greetings. The people addressing us were Shion and Miotsukushi. This woman is our enemy? I was trembling from a chill as if all the blood in my body had frozen over, and I tried to brace myself. Even though the air conditioning was running full blast, a cold sweat came overflowing down my back. It's no good. I can't do anything suspicious now. I don't know anything at this point, just that this woman is a nurse at the Irie clinic. I struggled to hold back my hoarse breathing and suppress my throbbing heartbeat while forcing a smile. Not sure if it worked, but Mr. Kano smiled at me and I and then spoke up. Are you on a date? Hearing the word date, Mion got restless, and Takano seemed to think that the reason for my jerky movements was just that I was nervous. Great. When Shion saw me like that, she grinned and looked like she was getting ready to make fun of me. What's the deal, Keiichi? A date at the library isn't very sexy. It's fine, okay? The library is cool and quiet. It's fun and relaxing, right? And it's free. That's unusually stingy of you, Keiichi. Aren't you supposed to express the amount of your love through the amount of money you spend? Did you hear that from some office lady? Plus, there's only so much money you can spend as an unemployed student. Okay, I'm mostly back to normal now. Anyway, I need to get going. Oh, sure. Thank you very much. Have fun, you two. Mr. Kano handed Shion some files and flashed me and Mion a suggestive smile before turning and heading out. Was she trying to make fun of me? What was the deal with that smile? Anyway, that's an unexpected combination. Shion and Mr. Kano. How on earth were the two of them connected? And what were those files Mr. Kano gave Shion? I had a bad feeling, but was it just because I was feeling overly cautious about her? Hey Shion, what are those? What are those? I pointed to the files in her hands. Oh, these? Mr. Kano compiled a list of stories about Hinamizawa. The local legends like being demoned away and stuff like that. Being demoned away? Like during the Tanagashi? So you're already familiar with that, Keiichi? Mr. Kano's been researching the curse that happens every year on the night of a Tanagashi. Are you interested, Keiichi? Yes, you could say I'm interested. Wait a minute, Keiichi. The moment Mion heard that, she rushed to cut off Shion's conversation, and nearly fell over after suddenly being struck by her threatening attitudes. Is something wrong, Mion? No. Besides, we came here today to study, right? You have to take this seriously and teach me. Sorry, it'll only be a second. Shion, can you tell me what else is in those files? No, I only just received them now. Would you care to give them a look together? Come on, Keiichi. Mion grabbed my arms. Her eyes were slanted and she looked pretty angry. Right, we're studying today. Just the two of us. No, it's a studying date, so anyone ignored in that situation would get upset. Can't be helped. I was concerned about Mr. Kano's notebook, but I decided to give up on discussing it with Shion. Sorry, that was wrong of me to do, Mion. Yeah, so anyway. And you too, Shion. I'm sorry to hold you up. We're going to get back to studying. Sis, you're just the same as always. Shion's laugh seemed like it was lightly teasing Mion, but Mion responded by glaring at her with a disgruntled expression. What's that supposed to mean? You don't want your beloved Keiichi to hear about the dark past of Hinamizawa. Whatever, I guess it's fine. Shion, you... Did I offend you? Should the future family head really put her emotions on full display like that? Mion kicked a chair over while abruptly rising to her feet and then glared at Shion, making no effort to hide her anger. Unswayed by Mion's momentum, Shion glared back at her. Do you still not trust me? I don't know what might happen if you refuse to stop. Oh? Is that a warning from the glorious future family head? Or perhaps the curse will fall on me during the Tanagashi this year? Don't say something so stupid. I don't know who filled your head with that idea, but it's absolute garbage. Garbage? If that's the case, then please, tell me the truth. I just really want to know the truth. Is there something wrong with searching for it? Well... The force of that question seemed to make Mion falter. Shion's overwhelming anger had turned the situation around. Now she was the one venting her rage at Mion, moving her face in closer. Sis, you're always like that. Instead of acting like a proper family head, you just callously watch the things around you. But I'm not like you. If nobody wants to talk about Satoshi, that's fine. I'll just investigate on my own. I don't expect any help out of you, so just don't get in my way. That's enough, you moron. Mion. When I saw Mion raise her fist, I finally started feeling overwhelmed and grabbed her from behind. Then she turned towards me and peered back at Shion over her shoulder. I'm sorry for keeping you here, Shion, but whenever we get another chance, I'd like to hear that demoning away story. You two enjoy studying or whatever on your own. Have fun on your little baby date. After that pleasant remark, Shion walked away. Then, after seeing her off, I noticed Mion getting back in her seat. And I should apologise to you too, Mion. I'm sorry. It's okay. You're not the one who needs to apologise. The awkward silence continued. Hoping to break through it, I decided to ask what they were even arguing about in the first place. Mion, what's the deal with Satoshi that Shion mentioned earlier? Was that Keiichi? You really want to know? Mion immediately grimaced. Still, it wasn't just for the sake of curiosity. I wanted to hear a proper explanation to confirm what I heard from Rika. I'm sure you already know about it, right? Story about being demoned away? I guess. She was speaking unusually evasively, most likely for the reason I heard from Akane earlier. I don't want to press you for an answer, okay? If you don't want to talk about it, I won't force you. It's just not a pleasant story, you know? Mion anxiously turned her gaze downward and slightly raised her head back up. I realised she was trying to avoid telling these bad stories out of concern for me. That's why I smiled and tried to reassure her. Even if it's not fun, even if it's scary or something, that's fine. No matter what I hear, I won't think less of you or Hinamizawa as a result. I promise that to Ms. Akane, to your mom. Mom? So, Keiichi? After nodding to her, I went on to tell her the things I heard from Ms. Akane the other night, about Hinamizawa and about Mion and everyone else. Of course, Mion frowned at first, learning that I already knew about the things she wanted to keep hidden from me. But when I told her that my feelings remained unchanged, and I trusted her all the same after hearing those stories, she had a relieved, bitter smile on her face and seemed convinced. Then I'll tell you everything I know. With that preface, Mion began to slowly open her mouth. It was a story about the repeating curse in Hinamizawa. Although most of the content was the same as what I'd already heard from Akane and Rika. I'm going to have to finish off this chapter because my throat really hurts all of a sudden. One person died and one went missing on the day of the festival every year for the past 4 years. And the people of Hinamizawa secretly attribute it to the curse of the village's guardian deity, Ayashiro-sama. Being demoned away is sort of like being spirited away. It's when someone vanishes due to Ayashiro-sama's curse. But hearing it directly from a major village figure like Mion gave me a clearer understanding of the state of all the villages were in. So the files that Mr. Kano gave Shion must have contained all kinds of research into the demoning away phenomenon. It was surprising enough that Mr. Kano was investigating such a thing, but I was even more surprised to learn that Shion was that fixated on the idea of people being demoned away. Why is she so insistent on investigating this? Satoko has an older brother named Satoshi. Satoshi and Shion were extremely close. Satoshi? Shion was in love with him. But last year, when Satoko's aunt was murdered, her brother disappeared. Indeed, I'd heard as much from Rika earlier. So Shion likes Satoshi. That must be why she cares so much about her sister, Satoko. But Satoshi went missing, last year on the day of Otanagashi. So he was demoned away? Mion nodded. I understand. So Shion is investigating the demoning away phenomenon because she wants to find Satoshi's whereabouts. To be honest, I think she's doing something unreasonable. Shion suspects that the Sonozaki family is responsible for people being demoned away. So she's investigating all kinds of things related to the Sonozaki family. Even after everything I've done to help her, she's still blind to how I feel. But isn't that perfectly normal? Huh? Mion seemed surprised and raised her head to look up at me. Still, I wasn't trying to take Shion's side here. I was just trying to express how I felt. Let's say you were the one who disappeared. I'm sure I'd be doing the same thing Shion's doing. Don't you think you'd be doing the same in that position, Mion? Well, of course I would. I'd be doing everything in my power to search for you, Keiichi. And... Suddenly Mion stared at me, then drooped her head while biting at her lip. And then, as though she was remembering something, she muttered something at me in an inaudible whisper and turned pale as she held her head. Shion, you committed a great sin. You were Mion until now. You were in a powerful position as Mion of the Sonozaki family, yet you didn't even try to rescue Satoshi. You had millions of chances to save him, but you chose not to do anything. I won't forgive you. I'll never forgive you. I could have saved Satoshi. You took him from me and you killed him. I'll never forgive you for that. I'll kill you. I'll kill you in the best possible way. Starting today, I'm going to think of the best, most gruesome way to kill you. Shion, you better spend every minute fearing what's coming for you. I won't just kill you. I'll make sure your death is long and miserable. And after you're dead, I'll throw you into the well. You better apologize to Satoshi when you get there. This is what you get for pretending to be me. Do you hear me? That's your sin. The demon form of Mion was simply terrifying. I could only hold my knees and tremble. But now I understand. If I was in the same position as that Mion, what would I think? What would I do? I understand. I finally realized. Mion? I wanted to do the best I could as Satoshi's friend, but it was different for Shion. It was something more than that. I never made an effort to understand how she felt. I recalled the exchange between the two of them. It's true that Shion's reaction was a bit excessive, but thinking about it calmly, I realized what underlying feelings drove her, I think. Satoshi had been demoned away, but Shion was still thinking about him, even now. But she can't find him. And the more she feels that deadlock, the more it fills her heart with anger, sadness, and anxiety. That pain expands infinitely and eventually leads to suspicion and dark emotions. You two enjoy studying whatever on your own. Have fun in a little baby date. When you think about it that way, the emotion Shion showed us was beyond measure. Her words are extremely insensitive, even in circumstances that can normally be overlooked. And if you hated feeling that way, if your emotions were running so wild you could barely even stand, who would blame you for that? I have you, Keiichi. But Shion no longer has Satoshi. That's true. Certainly bad timing. And that's not all. I realized how Shion felt, but I didn't understand her at all. It's perfectly natural for Shion to be upset. Mion, from Shion's point of view, the fact is that I made no effort to help her. Mion lowered her head. Her long hair hung down to hide her face. How shameful. I only now realized it. That I really... The person before me was not the future Sonozaki family head or the leader of our club. She was just a lone girl. And above all else, she was an older sister, thinking of her younger sister. And so, I was never feeling lost about how to respond to her. How about saying, I'm sorry? Huh? If that's the case, you should apologize. It's not like you're unable to meet up with her. If you think you did something wrong, say so. So why not apologize to her? But, Keiichi... Min remorsefully turned her gaze downwards, and so then she spoke like she was muttering to herself. But what happened back then, she probably won't want to meet her. She probably wouldn't even answer if I called. Even if I apologise for everything up until now, she may not forgive me. That's true. But that's something you have to make certain of for yourself, Mion. Right. Nobody else can do it for her. Mion has to do that herself. She'll only reach an answer if she makes the first move. Huh? You never know unless you try. Plus, if you feel that strongly, you can't hesitate to act. And if it doesn't go well, I'll be here to encourage you next time. Keiichi. Mion rubbed her nose and wiped away the tears running down her eyes. Then she took a deep breath to calm herself and nodded to me. Yeah, you're right. I understand. I'll try visiting her apartment tonight. Alright. And if that doesn't work, I'll call you. No, it's going to work. I won't even consider the notion of failure. It's definitely going to work out. So you'll be supporting me? Of course. Mion, you're my precious friend. Thanks, Keiichi. Mion gently held her hand out to me as she said that, and I quietly squeezed it with all my might. Even though it must have hurt a bit, Mion turned to me with a happy face. Give it your best shot, Mion. I'm sure it will all work out. And I hope Shion will make an effort to understand too. The only thing left for me to do is believe in the two of them. Folks, I think that is a really, really good way to end stream. See, we're getting any tips or... No, we aren't. In that case, never mind it. That is, in my opinion, a really good place to end things off. So, I am, of course, going to end things off there. I am going to say thank you very much for watching. It is very much appreciated, and I do hope that you enjoyed. I will be streaming a Nier Replicant this Saturday, where we're going to be starting Route B and seeing what has changed. Then on Sunday it'll be Destiny 2, where I'm going to be doing last week and this week's Splicer storyline. Then on Tuesday it'll be Final Fantasy XIV. I have no idea what I'll be doing, but I'm sure it'll be fun. And the next Thursday will be more Higurashi When They Cry, Miotsukushi Omote, where we're going to see if we can maybe make things just a little bit better. So, thank you very much for watching, everybody. It is very much appreciated. Do have a wonderful evening and be excellent to each other, and I shall see you guys on Saturday.